You are safe. You are sitting in a room, perhaps driving a car, or walking down a quiet street. There is no tiger in the bushes. There is no famine. There is no tribe coming to burn your village. Physically, you are completely secure. But your brain is telling you that you are about to die. It starts as a whisper, a vague sense of unease in the pit of your stomach. Then it tightens. The chest constricts. The thoughts begin to race, spiraling faster than you can catch them. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I'm sick? What if I never get better? Your heart rate spikes. Your palms sweat. Your vision narrows. You are paralyzed by a threat that does not exist in the physical world, but feels more real than the ground beneath your feet. This is the paradox of the modern human condition. We have never been safer, yet we have never been more afraid. If you are listening to this, you know exactly what I am talking about. You know the exhaustion of fighting a war inside your own head from the moment you wake up until the moment you collapse into fitful sleep. You know the frustration of being an intelligent, capable person who is hijacked by irrational fear. You have likely tried to think positive. You have probably been told to just relax, and you know that it doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is simple. You are trying to solve a biological problem with psychological band-aids. You are trying to talk yourself out of a chemical reaction. This audiobook is not about positive thinking. It is not about lighting candles or chanting mantras. This is a manual for mechanical repair. We are going to look at anxiety through the lens of neuroscience. We are going to treat your anxiety not as a character flaw, but as a glitch in the machinery. The reality is that your brain is not broken. It is actually working perfectly. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do: survive. The problem is that your survival software is outdated. It is running a program designed for the Stone Age in a world of spreadsheets and social media. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is stuck in the on position, flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline for battles that aren't happening. But here is the good news. The most powerful discovery in modern neuroscience is the concept of neuroplasticity. This is the proven fact that the brain is not static. It is plastic. It changes based on what you do, what you think, and where you focus your attention. Just as you have inadvertently trained your brain to be anxious, you can train it to be calm. You can physically rewrite the neural pathways that default to fear. You can shrink the amygdala and strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the rational executive center of your brain. In the coming chapters, we are going to dismantle the architecture of your anxiety. We will dissect the two pathways of fear, the cortex-based worry and the amygdala-based panic. We will give you the tools to interrupt the loop, to flush the stress chemicals from your blood, and to build a new baseline of resilience. Before we begin this surgery on your mindset, I have a small request. We are building a community of individuals dedicated to mastering their own minds. If you find value in this content, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel, the Premier Audiobooks. Your support helps us bring these life-changing insights to more people who are fighting the same battles you are. If you are with me so far, hit that subscribe button now. Thank you. Now, focus. The time for managing your symptoms is over. It is time to fix the machine. It is time to reclaim the energy, the focus, and the life that fear has stolen from you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Malfunction in the Machine. Is there something fundamentally wrong with you? That is the question that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. It is the question that lurks behind every panic attack, every moment of social hesitation, and every irrational fear that grips your chest. You look around at other people, your colleagues, your friends, the strangers walking calmly down the street, and they seem to operate with an effortless ease. They seem to possess a manual for living that you were never given. You wonder, why is everything so hard for me? Why does my brain feel like a minefield? Why can't I just be normal? Let's answer that question right now before we go any further. No, there is nothing wrong with you in the moral or spiritual sense. You are not broken. You are not weak. You do not lack character. What you are experiencing is a mechanical failure. If your car starts making a grinding noise and veering to the left, you don't sit in the driver's seat and shame the car. You don't tell the car it needs to be more positive. You don't ask the car why it's trying to ruin your life. You pull over, you pop the hood, and you look at the engine. You understand that a specific belt has snapped or a specific gear is misaligned. It is a cause and effect relationship. Your brain is no different. It is a machine, the most complex, high-performance machine in the known universe, but a machine nonetheless. It runs on electricity and chemistry. It has gears, circuits, and switches. And right now, your machine is overheating. To heal the anxiety, we have to stop treating it as a personality trait. We have to stop identifying with it. You are not an anxious person. You are a person with a brain that is currently running a faulty threat detection loop. This distinction changes everything. When you believe anxiety is who you are, you feel helpless. You cannot change your essence. But when you realize anxiety is simply what your brain is doing, you gain power. Because machines can be tuned, software can be updated, wiring can be fixed. In this chapter, we are going to pop the hood. We are going to strip away the emotion and look at the biology of your fear. We need to identify the specific components that are malfunctioning so that we can begin the repair. The architecture of survival. To understand why you feel the way you do, you have to understand who built your brain. You were not designed by a modern architect to sit in a cubicle, answer emails, and navigate complex social hierarchies. You were designed by evolution to survive in a world where almost everything wanted to kill you. Your ancestors were not the calmest people in the tribe. The calm ones, the ones who were relaxed, who didn't worry about the rustle in the tall grass, who didn't stress about storing enough food for winter, those people died. They were eaten by predators or starved to death. You are the descendant of the paranoid. You are the offspring of the hypervigilant. Your brain has been sculpted over millions of years to prioritize safety above happiness. In fact, your brain does not care if you are happy. It does not care if you are fulfilled, self-actualized, or peaceful. It only cares that you are alive to pass on your genes. If keeping you alive means keeping you in a state of perpetual terror, your brain considers that a success. This survival mechanism is governed by two primary players in your skull. If you want to master your anxiety, you must get to know these two characters intimately. They are the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The conflict between these two areas is the source of your suffering. The smoke detector, the amygdala. Deep in the center of your brain, shaped like an almond, sits the amygdala. This is the ancient part of your brain. It is the watchdog. It is the smoke detector. The amygdala has one job, simply to ask, is this dangerous? It scans every millisecond of your experience, what you see, hear, smell, and feel, and compares it against a database of past threats. When it detects a match, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't send a memo to your conscious mind. It slams its hand on the panic button. It triggers the release of adrenaline and cortisol. It increases your heart rate to pump blood to your major muscle groups. It dilates your pupils to sharpen your vision, and it shuts down non-essential systems like digestion and immune response. It prepares you to fight or flight. Here is the critical flaw in the amygdala. It is fast, but it is incredibly stupid. The amygdala operates on pattern recognition, not logic. It cannot tell the difference between a lion and a boss who looks angry. It cannot distinguish between a physical threat to your life and an ego threat to your reputation. It treats a turbulent flight the same way it treats a saber-toothed tiger. Furthermore, the amygdala does not understand time. It doesn't know tomorrow or next week. If you imagine a terrifying scenario, like losing your job, Your amygdala reacts as if it is happening right now. It cannot separate reality from imagination. This is why you can wake up with your heart pounding from a nightmare. The danger wasn't real, but the amygdala doesn't know that. It saw a threat and it dumped fuel into the engine. The CEO. The prefrontal cortex, sitting right behind your forehead, is the newest, most advanced part of the brain. The prefrontal cortex, or PFC. If the amygdala is a wild animal, the PFC is the zookeeper. If the amygdala is a screaming child, the PFC is the patient parent. This is the center of executive function. It handles logic, reasoning, impulse control, planning, and personality. The PFC allows you to look at a situation and say, okay, that loud noise was just a car backfiring, not a gunshot. We are safe. It is the brake pedal to the amygdala's gas pedal. It provides context. It regulates emotion. In a healthy, balanced brain, these two regions communicate seamlessly. The amygdala spots a potential threat and sends a signal up to the PFC. The PFC assesses the data, realizes it's a false alarm, and sends a calming signal back down to the amygdala. The chemical surge is halted. You might feel a momentary startle, but you quickly return to baseline. That is how it is supposed to work. But in the anxious brain, the communication line has been severed. The short circuit. Here is the malfunction. In your brain, the amygdala has become hypersensitive, and the PFC has become sluggish. Think of it like a smoke detector that is set entirely too high. It doesn't just go off when there's a fire. It goes off when you make toast, when you light a candle, or when the humidity changes. Your amygdala is perceiving threats everywhere. Simultaneously, your prefrontal cortex, the logic center, is offline. When the amygdala screams danger, it demands so much energy and blood flow that it actually steals resources away from the thinking part of your brain. This is why you cannot think clearly during a panic attack. This is why you say things you don't mean when you are angry. The adult has left the room and the toddler is driving the car. This is known as the amygdala hijack. During a hijack, your logic is chemically suppressed. You can try to tell yourself, this is irrational, I am safe, but the words feel empty. They don't land. That is because the part of your brain responsible for believing those words is currently powered down. You are left with a high-voltage current of pure fear coursing through your body with no way to turn it off. You are revving the engine in neutral. The cumulative debt. This malfunction doesn't just happen in acute moments of panic. For many of you, this is your baseline state. This is chronic anxiety. When the amygdala is constantly overactive, your body is bathed in a steady drip of stress hormones. Cortisol, in particular, is corrosive over time. It is designed to be used in short bursts for survival, not as a daily lifestyle. High levels of cortisol actually become toxic to the brain cells in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory and learning, and, crucially, they weaken the prefrontal cortex. This creates a vicious cycle. The more anxious you are, the weaker your brakes become. The weaker your brakes become, the harder it is to stop the anxiety. You become biologically predisposed to fear. You begin to see the world through a lens of danger. A neutral email from a coworker reads as aggressive. A slight change in your partner's tone feels like rejection. A headache feels like a tumor. Your brain is connecting dots that shouldn't be connected, creating a constellation of catastrophe out of ordinary data. This is not you being crazy. This is a hardware issue. Your threat detection threshold has been lowered so much that being alive feels dangerous. The myth of control. So, how have you been handling this? If you are like most high-functioning people, you try to handle it with control. You try to micromanage your environment. You double-check everything. You over-prepare. You people-please to avoid conflict. You avoid situations that might trigger the alarm. You build a life that is smaller and smaller, trying to stay within the safe zone where the amygdala won't wake up. But this strategy is flawed. You cannot control the world. The world is chaotic. And every time you try to control the external world to soothe your internal state, you reinforce the malfunction. You are teaching your amygdala, you are right, the world is dangerous, and I must be vigilant. You are feeding the beast you are trying to starve. The more you avoid, the scarier the world becomes. The more you check, the less you trust yourself. You are unknowingly training your brain to be more anxious. The biological truth of emotion. We need to address the physical sensation of anxiety. Many people can handle the thoughts, it is the feelings that break them. The tightness, the nausea, the dizziness. These physical symptoms are just data. They are the language of the amygdala. Since the amygdala cannot speak English, it speaks in sensation. It speaks in heartbeats and sweat. When you feel that pit in your stomach, it is not a premonition. It is not intuition telling you that something bad is about to happen. It is simply blood being diverted away from your stomach so you can run. That is it. When you feel lightheaded or derealized, it is not because you are going insane. It is because you are hyperventilating slightly, changing the oxygen-carbon dioxide balance in your blood. When you understand the mechanics, the terror loses its edge. You can look at your trembling hands and say, "This is just adrenaline. This is just biology. I am not dying, I am just ready to sprint." You must learn to interpret these signals correctly. Right now, when you feel a sensation of anxiety, your brain interprets the sensation itself as a threat. This is the fear of fear. You feel a flutter in your chest, you think, "Oh no, here it comes." And that thought triggers the amygdala again, releasing more adrenaline, which causes more shaking, which causes more fear. This is the loop. This is the malfunction. The path forward, acknowledging the machine, is the first step to fixing it. You have to accept that right now, your hardware is sensitized. You have to stop fighting the reality of your biology. You cannot wish this away. You cannot hate yourself into a calm state. However, the brain is not fixed in stone. This is where the concept of neuroplasticity comes in, which we will cover in depth later. But for now, know this. The brain changes based on how it is used. The pathways that trigger your anxiety are like superhighways, broad, paved, and fast. The pathways that trigger calm and rationality are like overgrown dirt paths in the woods. They are hard to find and difficult to traverse. Our job in this audiobook is to pave the new roads and let the old highways crumble into dust. We are going to manually strengthen the prefrontal cortex. We are going to desensitize the amygdala. We are going to recalibrate the smoke detector so it only goes off when there is actual fire. This process requires precision. It requires you to go against your instincts. When your brain screams run, you must learn to stay. When your brain screams fight, you must learn to yield. When your brain screams think harder, you must learn to stop thinking altogether. It is counterintuitive, but it is the only way to rewire the system. Defining your why. Before we move to the next chapter, I want you to reflect on what this malfunction has cost you. Anxiety is expensive. It costs you your sleep. It costs you your presence with your family. It costs you professional opportunities because you were too afraid to speak up or take the risk. It costs you your joy. Think of the moments you have missed because you were physically there but mentally trapped in a catastrophe loop. Think of the relationships that have suffered because you were too exhausted from fighting your own brain to be emotionally available. You are paying a tax on your life that you do not owe. This machine, this brain of yours, is capable of incredible things. It is capable of deep focus, profound creativity, immense resilience, and absolute peace. But right now, those capabilities are buried under the noise of the malfunction. We are going to clear the noise. In the next chapter, we are going to look specifically at the amygdala hijack, the sudden, bottom-up panic that hits you out of nowhere. I am going to teach you how to recognize the biological signature of a hijack before it takes over, and how to manually override the system when the alarm bells start ringing. You are not a victim of your biology. You are its operator. It is time to get back into the driver's seat. Take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Let it out slowly. The repair begins now. Chapter 2. The Amygdala Hijack. It happens in the produce aisle of the grocery store. It happens while you're sitting in traffic listening to a podcast. It happens in the middle of a dinner conversation that has nothing to do with anything stressful. Suddenly, the world tilts. A cold wash of dread cascades down your spine. The fluorescent lights above you seem too bright, glaring, almost aggressive. The sounds around you, the register beeping, the hum of the refrigerator, the chatter of other people, become distorted and overwhelming. Your heart hammers against your ribs like a trapped bird. You feel a desperate, primal need to get out, to run, to hide, to escape your own skin. You frantically search your mind for a reason. Did I forget something? Did someone text me? Is there a fire? But there is no reason. There is no tiger. There is no gunman. There is just you, standing next to the apples, feeling like you are about to cease to exist. This is the amygdala hijack. It is the most terrifying experience in the anxiety spectrum because it is seemingly causeless. It defies logic. And because you cannot find a logical source for the fear in the outside world, you turn inward. You conclude that the danger is you. You think you are having a heart attack, a stroke, or a psychotic break. You are not. You are experiencing a false positive in your brain's perimeter defense system. In the previous chapter, we introduced the players. Now we are going to watch the game. We are going to break down the specific neural pathway of bottom-up anxiety, the panic that starts in the body and conquers the mind. And we are going to learn how to execute a manual override. The two roads of fear. To understand why you can panic before you even have a conscious thought, you have to understand the wiring of the human brain. Neuroscientists have identified two distinct pathways that fear takes to get to the amygdala. We call them the high road and the low road. The high road is the path of logic. Let's say you are hiking and you see a long, curved shape on the trail. Your eyes send that visual data to the thalamus, the brain's relay station. The thalamus sends it to the sensory cortex, which analyzes the shape, color, and movement. It sends that analysis to the hippocampus to check your memory files. Finally, the data reaches the amygdala with a verdict. It's just a stick. You stay calm. The high road is accurate, but it is slow. It takes milliseconds, too long if the shape is actually a venomous snake. This is why we have the low road. The low road is a survival shortcut. When you see that shape, the thalamus sends a crude, low-resolution signal directly to the amygdala, bypassing the thinking brain entirely. The amygdala doesn't wait for confirmation. It screams "snake" and fires the stress response immediately. You jump back before you even realize what you are looking at. This split-second reaction keeps you alive in the wild. But in the anxious brain, the low road has become a superhighway, and the high road is under construction. Your thalamus has become hypersensitive. It is sending low road signals for everything. A sudden loud noise? Hijack. A weird sensation in your chest? Hijack. A flicker of light? Hijack. Your body reacts to a catastrophe that hasn't happened, and your thinking brain is left in the dust, trying to figure out why you are suddenly hyperventilating. The physiology of the crash. Let's look at what happens biologically during those first few seconds of a hijack. This is not a metaphor. This is a cascade of chemistry. The moment the amygdala pulls the lever, it signals the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus activates the pituitary gland, which signals the adrenal glands sitting on top of your kidneys. This is the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal. Within seconds, your bloodstream is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. The effects are immediate and violent. Your blood vessels constrict to force pressure up, ensuring your muscles have oxygen for the fight. This is why your hands and feet might get cold or tingle. The blood is leaving the extremities to protect the core organs. Your respiration rate increases. You start taking shallow, rapid breaths to oxygenate the blood. But because you aren't actually running, you aren't burning off that oxygen. You end up offloading too much carbon dioxide. This changes the pH balance of your blood, leading to respiratory alkalosis. The symptoms? Dizziness, lightheadedness, and a feeling of unreality. Your digestion stops. The brain decides that digesting lunch is not a priority when you are about to be eaten. The blood drains from your stomach, causing that sudden drop, nausea, or butterflies feeling. Your pupils dilate to let in more light, which destroys your depth perception and makes everything look 2D or dreamlike. This is a perfect physiological state for fighting a wolf. It is a terrible state for sitting in a conference room. The great deception, the interpreter. Here is where the suffering truly begins. If a bear walked into the room, you wouldn't be confused about why your heart was racing. You would look at the bear, look at your trembling hands, and say, "This makes sense." But in a bottom-up hijack, there is no bear. There is only the physical sensation of terror. The human brain hates ambiguity. It is a meaning-making machine. The left hemisphere of your brain has a function that neuroscientists call the interpreter. Its job is to create a coherent narrative out of your experience. When the body goes into panic mode without a visible trigger, the interpreter scrambles to find a cause. It looks at the physiological data, heart racing, dizziness, impending doom, and it invents a story to match the intensity of the feeling. If you are driving, the interpreter says, "The bridge is dangerous. You are going to drive off the edge." If you are in a social setting, the interpreter says, "Everyone is staring at you. You are humiliating yourself." If you are alone, the interpreter says, "You are dying. This is the end." You need to understand this deeply. The thoughts are not the cause of the panic. The thoughts are the result of the panic. You do not think scary thoughts and then get anxious. You get a physical surge of adrenaline and your brain generates scary thoughts to justify the adrenaline. The story is a lie. It is a hallucination created to explain a chemical accident. This is why you cannot argue with yourself during a panic attack. You are arguing with the interpreter, but the interpreter isn't in charge. The amygdala is. The failure of willpower. Most people try to stop a hijack with willpower. They grit their teeth. They try to act normal. They try to suppress the shaking. This is like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a piece of plywood. When the HPA axis is fully activated, you are in a state of high biological arousal. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that has willpower, is chemically impaired. The more you fight the sensation, the more danger signals you send to the amygdala. You think, "I must stop shaking. If I shake, people will see. If they see, I am unsafe." The amygdala hears, "Unsafe. Warning, more adrenaline needed." By resisting the panic, you amplify it. You create a feedback loop where the fear of the symptom creates more of the symptom. You turn a 10-minute adrenaline surge into a 3-hour ordeal. To break the hijack, you must stop using your mind. You have to use your body. You have to speak the language of the amygdala, and that language is sensory, not linguistic. Protocol 1. The cold shock. The mammalian dive reflex. If you are in the grip of a severe hijack, a 9 or 10 on the scale, you need a hard reset. You need to crash the computer to stop the glitch. The most effective tool for this is cold water. There is a mechanism hardwired into your biology called the mammalian dive reflex. It is a vestige of our aquatic ancestors. When cold water hits the area around your eyes and nose, your brain instantly assumes you are underwater. To preserve oxygen, it immediately slows down your heart rate. It is a reflex. It is not optional. Your heart rate will drop. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, to counteract the sympathetic fight-or-flight surge. The tactic: if you are spiraling, go to a bathroom. Splash freezing cold water on your face. Hold it there. If you can, hold an ice pack against your cheekbones, or submerge your face in a bowl of ice water while holding your breath for 30 seconds. This sends a biological all-clear signal that is louder than the adrenaline. It snaps the amygdala out of its loop. It forces the system to reboot. Protocol 2. Mechanical breathing. Take a deep breath is the most annoying advice you can give an anxious person, mostly because they are doing it wrong. When you panic, you take huge gulps of air into your chest. As we discussed, this dumps too much CO2 and makes you dizzier. You need to control the mechanics of the diaphragm. You need to extend the exhale. The inhale acts as the gas pedal for the heart. The exhale acts as the brake. When you inhale, your heart rate speeds up slightly. When you exhale, it slows down. This is known as respiratory sinus arrhythmia. To hack the hijack, you need to spend more time braking than accelerating. The tactic, the 4-7-8 method, or box breathing. Inhale through the nose for 4 seconds. Hold the breath for 7 seconds. This allows CO2 to build up, reducing dizziness. Exhale forcefully through the mouth, making a whooshing sound for 8 seconds. Do this 4 times. The long exhale physically stimulates the vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem down to your abdomen. The vagus nerve is the remote control for your relaxation response. You are manually slowing down the engine. Protocol 3. Vision release. When you are in danger, your vision narrows. This is called foveal vision. You focus intensely on the threat. This tunnel vision is a signal to the brain that you are in combat mode. Conversely, when you are safe, you use peripheral vision. You take in the horizon. You see the whole room. You can reverse engineer safety by manually expanding your field of view. The tactic: soften your gaze. Do not look at something, look through it. Consciously try to see the walls to the far left and right of you without moving your eyeballs. Expand your awareness to the ceiling and the floor. This panoramic vision is incompatible with the fight-or-flight response. You cannot maintain tunnel vision panic while maintaining panoramic focus. The brain has to choose, and if you force the vision, the brain will follow. The 90-second wave. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, a neuroanatomist, discovered a profound truth about emotion. The chemical lifespan of an emotion is only about 90 seconds. From the moment the amygdala pulls the trigger to the moment the chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, are flushed out of your bloodstream, it takes roughly a minute and a half. That's it. If you feel anxiety for longer than 90 seconds, it is because you are re-triggering the circuit. You are having a thought, "Oh God, this is bad," that stimulates the amygdala to release another dose. You are chaining 90-second waves together into a continuous storm. But if you can sustain the initial hit, if you can feel the surge, recognize it as a low-road hijack, and apply a physical intervention like cold water or breathing without adding a narrative to it, the wave will crest and break. You have to learn to surf that first 90 seconds. You have to endure the discomfort without believing the story. Separating signal from noise. The ultimate goal of mastering the hijack is discerning signal from noise. True fear is a signal. If a car swerves into your lane, the adrenaline is useful. It helps you steer out of the way. Once the event is over, the system cools down. Anxiety is noise. It is static on the radio. It is the alarm ringing in an empty building. When the hijack starts, you must label it immediately. Say to yourself, "This is noise. This is a mechanical malfunction. I am not in danger, I am just chemically uncomfortable." Refuse to negotiate with the noise. Do not look for the reason why you're anxious. Remember, there often isn't one. Do not try to solve your life problems while your heart is racing. Your only job during a hijack is to regulate your physiology. The shutdown. When flight becomes freeze. We must also address the other side of the coin. Sometimes the hijack doesn't make you want to run, it makes you collapse. This is the freeze response, or the dorsal vagal shutdown. This happens when the brain perceives a threat so overwhelming that fighting or fleeing seems impossible. The system decides the best way to survive is to play dead. You feel heavy, you feel numb, you feel dissociated, like you are watching yourself from across the room. You can't speak, you just want to curl up in a ball and disappear. This is still an amygdala hijack, but it requires a different intervention. If you are in fight or flight, high energy, you need to calm down. Exhaling, panoramic vision. If you are in freeze, low energy, you need to wake up. You need to stimulate the system. Tense and release your muscles. Shake your hands vigorously. Stomp your feet on the ground. Make low humming sounds in your throat. You need to remind your nervous system that you are still here, you are still in a body, and you possess agency. Recovery and compassion after a hijack. You will be exhausted. This is the adrenaline hangover. Your body has just run a marathon while sitting in a chair. Your blood sugar is depleted. Your muscles are sore. Do not judge yourself for this exhaustion. Do not tell yourself you are lazy. Treat yourself like you are recovering from the flu. Drink water, eat protein, rest. The most damaging thing you can do after a panic attack is to shame yourself for having it. Shame is a stressor. Shame keeps the cortisol dripping. Instead, adopt a stance of clinical curiosity. Wow, that was a massive release of adrenaline. My system is really sensitive today. I wonder what triggered the low road. The takeaway here is the truth you must carry from this chapter. You are not your reflexes. The amygdala hijacked is a biological event, not a character defect. It is a relic of your evolutionary past that is misfiring in the present. You cannot stop the initial surge. The low road is faster than your conscious mind. You will never be able to think fast enough to prevent the first drop of adrenaline. But you can control what happens next. You can choose not to buy into the narrative. You can choose to intervene physically. You can choose to ride the wave rather than drown in it. You have the tools now. You know where the reset buttons are hidden on the machine. The next time the world tilts, do not ask why. Do not ask what if. Splash the water. Exhale the breath. Widen the eyes. Survive the 90 seconds. Now that we have addressed the body's rebellion, we must turn our attention to the mind. The amygdala is the brute force, but the cortex, the thinking brain, can be just as destructive. In the next chapter, we will expose the cortex conspiracy and how your own intelligence is being used against you to manufacture misery. Chapter 3. The Cortex Conspiracy. The body can be calm while the mind is screaming. You know this state. You are lying in bed, the lights are out, the house is silent. Your body is exhausted, heavy against the mattress. You are safe. There is no immediate threat. But your mind is running a marathon. Did I send that email? What if the tone was wrong? What if they think I'm incompetent? If I lose this job, I can't pay the mortgage. If I can't pay the mortgage, I lose the house. I'll be homeless. My family will leave me. In the span of 30 seconds, you have traveled from a minor administrative oversight to total destitution and abandonment. You are sweating, your stomach is churning, you are wide awake. This is not the amygdala hijack we discussed in the last chapter. This did not start with a loud noise or a sudden sensation. This started with a thought. This is top-down anxiety. This is the specific burden of the intelligent. While the amygdala is a primitive beast that reacts to the present moment, the anxiety we are discussing now is a product of your advanced, high-functioning human intellect. It is a conspiracy hatched by your own prefrontal cortex. The part of your brain designed to solve problems has begun to create them. It is running simulations of disasters that have not happened, may never happen, and that you have no control over. And it is treating these simulations as absolute facts. In this chapter, we are going to dismantle the worry loop. We are going to expose why your brain is addicted to what if, and how your intelligence is being weaponized against your peace of mind. The curse of the time traveler. Human beings possess a superpower that no other animal has: mental time travel. Your dog does not worry about next week. Your dog does not lay awake wondering if he has saved enough for retirement. He lives entirely in the now. If there is a squirrel, he chases it. If there is a nap, he takes it. You, however, live in the then. Your prefrontal cortex, PFC, allows you to project yourself into the future. You can imagine scenarios that do not yet exist. This is the foundation of all civilization. It allows us to plant crops for a harvest months away, build cities, and save money. But this superpower comes with a heavy tax. Because your brain is a survival machine, it does not use this time travel ability to fantasize about how well things will go. It uses it to predict what could go wrong. It is an anticipatory threat detection system. The PFC runs endless simulations of the future to identify potential dangers so you can avoid them. It asks, what if the crop fails? What if the enemy attacks? What if I get sick? In a healthy brain, this is a brief check-in. You identify a risk, you make a plan, and you dismiss the thought. In the anxious brain, the simulation button gets stuck. You are not just identifying risks, you are living in them. You are inhabiting a future that is comprised entirely of worst-case scenarios. You are suffering from tragedies that have not happened. As the philosopher Seneca famously said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The prediction machine. To understand why you can't simply stop worrying, you have to understand that your brain is not a camera. It does not passively record the world. It is a prediction engine. Your brain is constantly guessing what is going to happen next based on what has happened before. It constructs a model of reality. When you have top-down anxiety, your prediction model is corrupted. You have what psychologists call a negativity bias. You overestimate the likelihood of a bad outcome, and you underestimate your ability to cope with it. You think the probability of embarrassing yourself in the meeting is 90% when it is actually 1%. And you think that if you do embarrass yourself, it will be a catastrophic, career-ending event, unable to cope, rather than just an awkward moment, copable. This creates a state of chronic anticipatory anxiety. You are walking through life waiting for the other shoe to drop. You are flinching before you are hit. This is exhausting because your brain cannot distinguish between a vivid imagination and reality. When you vividly imagine your partner cheating on you, your brain sends the same signals to your gut and heart as if it were actually happening. You are dosing yourself with stress hormones based on a movie playing in your head. The illusion of control. Why do we do this? Why do we torture ourselves with worry? Because worry feels like work. This is the great lie of the cortex conspiracy. Your brain convinces you that worrying is a productive activity. It feels like problem solving. You tell yourself, if I worry about this, I am preparing for it. If I run through every possible bad outcome, I won't be blindsided. Worry becomes a talisman. It becomes a superstition. You feel that if you stop worrying, you are letting your guard down, and that is when disaster will strike. You believe your worry is the glue holding your life together. But worry is not preparation. Preparation is active. It is updating your resume. It is checking the tire pressure. It is packing a first aid kit. Worry is passive. It is circular. It is sitting in a rocking chair. Plenty of motion, but you aren't going anywhere. You are not solving the problem, you are just revving the engine. But because it causes stress, and stress feels like effort, you trick yourself into thinking you are being responsible. You are not. You are just being miserable. The rumination trap, the broken record. There is a distinct difference between worry, which is usually about the future, and rumination, which is usually about the past or the self. Rumination is the cortex digesting itself. It is the why loop. Why did I say that? Why am I like this? Why do I always fail? Normal problem solving is linear. It has a beginning, a middle, and a resolution. Problem: my car is making a noise. Solution: take it to the mechanic. Result: fixed. Rumination is circular. It has no exit. Problem: I feel sad. Analysis: why do I feel sad? It's because I'm broken. I've always been broken. Remember that time in 3rd grade? That proves it. I'll never get better. Now I feel sadder. This is often driven by the default mode network, DMN, in the brain. This is a network of interacting brain regions that activates when you are not focused on the outside world. When you zone out, you default to the DMN. For most people, the DMN is for daydreaming. For the anxious person, the DMN is the torture chamber. It is where the inner critic lives. When you are ruminating, you are digging a trench in your neural pathways. Every time you replay a painful memory or a fearful thought, you are strengthening the synaptic connections for that thought. You are making it easier for your brain to think that thought again tomorrow. You are practicing your anxiety. You are becoming an expert in your own suffering. Cognitive fusion, being the thought. The core of the problem is not that you have negative thoughts. Everyone has negative thoughts. The problem is cognitive fusion. Fusion means you are stuck to the thought. You become the thought. There is no distance between the thinker and the idea. If you have the thought, "I am a failure," you do not see it as a string of words passing through your mind. You see it as the truth. You treat it as a fact, like gravity. You instantly buy into the premise. You don't question the validity of the thought, you just react to the emotional payload it carries. This is where the cortex conspires against you. Because you are intelligent, you are very good at arguing your own case. You can pile up evidence to prove why you are indeed a failure. You act as the prosecutor in the courtroom of your mind, and there is no defense attorney. Intervention, the courtroom of the mind. To break top-down anxiety, we have to engage the logic centers correctly. We have to turn the PFC back into a scientist instead of a storyteller. We need to introduce cognitive diffusion. We need to create space. The first step is labeling. When a worry loop starts, you must catch it and label it. Instead of saying, "I am going to get fired," say, "I am having the thought that I might get fired." This sounds subtle, but it is neurologically profound. It separates you, the consciousness, from the data, the thought. It reminds you that thoughts are just electrochemical events. They are not prophecies. Next, we put the thought on trial. We ask for evidence. The thought: "Everyone at the party hates me." The evidence for: "I felt awkward." The evidence against: "Did anyone say they hate me? Did they frown at me? Did they ask me to leave? Or did they actually smile and offer me a drink?" You force your cortex to look at reality, not the simulation. You will find that 99% of your top-down anxiety is based on assumption, mind reading, and fortune-telling, none of which are admissible evidence in a court of law. The so what technique. Sometimes logic doesn't work because the fear is too vague. It's just a looming sense of something bad. In this case, we use the so what technique, also known as decatastrophizing. We don't fight the fear, we follow it to the bottom. Fear: "I'm going to mess up this presentation." Okay, so what if I do? Fear: "Then my boss will be angry." You: "Okay, so what if he is angry?" Fear: "He might yell at me." You: "Okay, I've been yelled at before, I can handle yelling." Then what? Fear: "I might lose my job." You: "Okay, if I lose my job, am I dead?" No. Do I have savings? Yes. Could I get another job? Yes. By following the thread all the way to the end, you usually realize that the worst-case scenario is actually survivable. It might be unpleasant, but it is not fatal. The anxiety relies on the monster remaining in the shadows. When you drag it out into the light and look at it, it shrinks. You realize you have resources. You realize you have agency. Scheduled worrying. Since your brain is addicted to worrying, going cold turkey rarely works. If you try to just stop worrying, you will worry about the fact that you aren't worrying. So we schedule it. Give your cortex a specific time to go wild. Set a timer for 15 minutes a day, let's say 4 p.m. to 4:15 p.m. During this window, you are allowed to worry about everything. Write it down, ruminate, catastrophize, go crazy. But when a worry pops up at 10 a.m., you say, "Not now. I have an appointment with this worry at 4 p.m. This teaches your brain two things. We are not ignoring the threat, appealing to the safety instinct. We are in control of when we engage with it, strengthening executive function. Usually, by the time 4 p.m. rolls around, the emotion has detached from the thought, and you no longer care enough to worry about it. The information diet. We must also look at the fuel you are feeding your cortex. Your brain is a processing unit. If you feed it garbage, it will produce anxiety. In the modern world, we are inundated with super stimuli of danger. The news cycle, social media, and 24-hour global updates are designed to trigger your threat detection system. They monetize your anxiety. If you scroll through your phone for an hour before bed, watching wars, economic collapses, and angry political debates, you are priming your cortex for conspiracy. You are giving it raw material to build nightmares. You cannot heal an anxious brain while force-feeding it trauma. You must curate your input. Silence the notifications. Unfollow the alarmists. Read books instead of feeds. Give your cortex data that is slow, deep, and grounded, rather than fast, shallow, and terrifying. The power of maybe. The anxious cortex craves certainty. It wants to know for sure that everything will be okay. But life is uncertain. You cannot know the future. The antidote to the anxiety of uncertainty is not false certainty, everything will be fine. It is the acceptance of possibility. It is the concept of maybe. Maybe I will fail. Maybe I won't. Maybe they like me. Maybe they don't. When you accept the maybe, you stop fighting reality. You relax into the ambiguity. You realize that you don't need to know the future to be okay in the present. You cultivate a trust in your future self. You say, I don't know what is going to happen, but I trust that the me of tomorrow will be able to handle it when it arrives. Breaking the narrative. You are the narrator of your life, but right now you are telling a horror story. You are interpreting every event as a prelude to disaster. You are seeing shadows where there are none. To heal the cortex, you must become a better editor. You must catch the script when it starts to drift into tragedy and rewrite it in real time. You must challenge the conspiracy. When your brain says you aren't enough, you demand proof. When your brain says disaster is coming, you ask, is it here right now? We are moving from a dictatorship where your thoughts rule you to a democracy where you get to vote on which thoughts receive your attention. The takeaway here. Here is the revelation for this chapter. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which your thoughts occur. You are the sky. The thoughts are just the clouds. The clouds can be dark, stormy, and terrifying, but they cannot harm the sky. They eventually pass. Your intelligence is a tool. It is a knife. You can grab it by the handle and use it to carve a beautiful life. Or you can grab it by the blade and cut yourself. Top-down anxiety is grabbing the knife by the blade. It is time to let go. It is time to step back and observe the machine at work without getting caught in the gears. We have now covered the amygdala, the body, and the cortex, the mind. But there is a mechanism that locks these patterns in place, making them harder to break the longer you have them. That mechanism is neuroplasticity. In the next chapter, the neuroplasticity protocol, we will discover how you have physically wired your brain for anxiety and the exact scientific protocol to wire it for calm. We are going to turn you from a victim of your wiring into the architect of it. Chapter 4, the neuroplasticity protocol. For decades, the scientific community operated under a tragic misconception. We believed that the adult brain was static. We believed that once you reached adulthood, the concrete had set. Your personality, your temperament, your habits, and your neuroses were fixed in stone. If you were an anxious person at 25, you would be an anxious person at 75. The best you could hope for was to manage the decline and cope with the symptoms. We were wrong. The most revolutionary discovery in the history of neuroscience is that the brain is not hardwired like a computer. It is soft-wired. It is plastic. It is a living, shifting, dynamic organ that physically restructures itself every single day based on what you do and how you think. This is neuroplasticity. This concept is the foundation of your recovery. It means that you are not a victim of your genetics or your past. It means that the brain you have today does not have to be the brain you have tomorrow. But there is a catch. Neuroplasticity is blind. It is value neutral. It does not care if you are building a brain that is calm, focused, and happy, or a brain that is paranoid, neurotic, and terrified. It simply obeys the laws of mechanics. It reinforces whatever you repeat. And right now, without realizing it, you have been using this miraculous power to build a prison. In this chapter, we are going to learn the rules of the game. We are going to stop building the prison and start building the exit. We are going to look at the biology of habit formation, not just behavioral habits, but emotional habits. And we are going to implement a protocol to starve the anxiety circuits and feed the circuits of calm. The law of association. In 1949, a psychologist named Donald Hebb coined a phrase that has become the mantra of modern neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Here is what that looks like in your head. Imagine your brain is a dense, virgin forest. To get from point A, a trigger, to point B, a reaction, you have to bushwhack through the trees. The first time you do it, it is difficult. You have to hack through the vines and climb over rocks. But you make it through. You leave a faint trail of bent grass. The next time you need to go from A to B, you see that faint trail and you take it again. It is slightly easier this time. You trample the grass down further. If you take that path every day for 10 years, what happens? The grass dies. The earth becomes packed and hard. You widen the path. Eventually, you pave it. It becomes a highway. You can now travel from trigger to reaction at 80 miles per hour without even thinking about it. This is exactly what has happened with your anxiety. The first time you felt a twinge of social anxiety, it was a dirt path. But every time you avoided a party, every time you overanalyzed a text message, every time you laid in bed ruminating on a catastrophe, you walked that path again. You fired the neurons of perception and fear simultaneously, over and over. Now you have a superhighway. The moment you feel a sensation, your brain effortlessly zips down the pavement to panic. It happens automatically, it happens instantly. Not because you are weak, but because you are efficient. Your brain has become a master at being anxious. The virtuoso of fear. I want you to reframe how you see your condition. You do not have a disorder in the traditional sense. You have a skill. If you practice the violin for 4 hours a day, every day, for 20 years, you would be a virtuoso. Your fingers would fly across the strings without conscious thought. Your brain would have dedicated a massive amount of cortical real estate to the fine motor movements of your left hand. You have been practicing anxiety with the same dedication. You have rehearsed the what-if scales every morning. You have practiced the catastrophe sonatas every night. You have trained your amygdala to be a virtuoso of terror. This is important to understand because it removes the mystery. You are not cursed. You are just well rehearsed. The physiological mechanism behind this is a substance called myelin. Myelin is a fatty, white substance that wraps around the axons of your nerve cells. Think of it like the rubber insulation around an electrical wire. Its job is to prevent the electrical signal from leaking out and to speed up the transmission. When you repeat a thought or action, your brain says, "This seems important. We keep doing this. Let's insulate this circuit." Special cells called oligodendrocytes wrap layers of myelin around that neural pathway. The more myelin, the faster the signal. A heavily myelated signal can travel up to 100 times faster than an unmyelated one. Your anxiety circuits are wrapped in thick layers of myelin. Your calm circuits are uninsulated, slow, and leaky. This is why it is so hard to just calm down. The anxiety signal wins the race every time. It is a Ferrari on a racetrack while your rational thought is a bicycle in the mud. The protocol: use it or lose it. So, how do we reverse this? We use the corollary to Hebb's law. Neurons that fire apart wire apart. Or, more simply, use it or lose it. The brain is an energy-conserving organ. It is ruthless about efficiency. If a neural pathway is not used for a long period, the brain identifies it as waste. It sends in a cleanup crew. This process is called synaptic pruning. Your brain has a system, specifically the microglia cells, that literally eats the connections that are no longer active. It strips away the myelin, it dismantles the synapses, it reclaims the resources. This is your greatest hope. If you stop walking the path of anxiety, the weeds will grow back. The pavement will crack. The forest will reclaim the highway. Eventually, the path will disappear. But you have to stop walking it. This brings us to the neuroplasticity protocol. This is not a passive process. You cannot wait for your brain to change. You must force the change through conscious, deliberate effort. Step 1. The pattern interrupt. The first step in rewiring is to stop the automatic flow of traffic down the old highway. You cannot stop the initial trigger. Triggers will happen. But you can stop the engagement. Most people feel the trigger, the chest flutter, the intrusive thought, and immediately jump on the highway. They follow the thought, they argue with it, they explore it. You must install a stop sign. When the anxious thought arises, you must physically and mentally interrupt the pattern. We discussed physical interrupts like cold water in Chapter 2, but you can also use a cognitive interrupt. You need a breaker phrase. When the spiral starts, you say, out loud if possible, "Stop," or "Not useful," or "I am not doing this." It sounds primitive, but you are jamming a stick in the spokes of the wheel. You are preventing the neurons from firing in their usual sequence. You are denying the circuit the electricity it craves. Every time you interrupt the loop, you are denying the myelin reinforcement. You are casting a vote for a different brain. Step 2. The pivot. Forging the new path. Interrupting is not enough. If you just stop, the energy has nowhere to go, and it will likely leak back into the old channel. You must immediately redirect that energy into a new pathway. You have to bushwhack a new trail. If the old path is worry, the new path must be focus. This is where it gets uncomfortable. The new path is going to feel wrong. It is going to feel fake. It is going to feel dangerous. Your brain will scream, "Why are we walking into the bushes? The highway is right there." You must ignore the protest. The pivot works like this. Trigger. You feel anxious about an upcoming meeting. Interrupt. Stop. This is just the cortex conspiracy. Pivot. You force your attention onto a neutral or positive task in the immediate present. You look at the spreadsheet in front of you. You focus entirely on the font, the numbers, the colors. You wash the dishes and focus entirely on the temperature of the water and the smell of the soap. You are manually forcing the electrical signal down a different wire. At first, this requires immense effort. The signal is weak. But remember Hebb's law. If you do this once, it does almost nothing. If you do it 100 times, you bend the grass. If you do it 1,000 times, you build a new road. The myth of fake it till you make it. People criticize the idea of faking it. They say you should be authentic to your feelings. In the context of neuroplasticity, being authentic to your anxiety just means staying anxious. When you pivot to a calm behavior, even though you feel terrified inside, you are not lying. You are training. Think of physical therapy. If you break your leg and then the cast comes off, walking hurts. You have a limp. To walk normally, you have to force yourself to put weight on the atrophied leg. It feels unnatural. It hurts. But it is the only way to rebuild the muscle. You are doing physical therapy for your brain. You are putting weight on the prefrontal cortex even though it is weak. You are acting calm to become calm. Consistency versus intensity. Here is the golden rule of neuroplasticity. Consistency beats intensity every time. You cannot rewire your brain in a weekend. You cannot fix 20 years of anxiety with one really good meditation session. The brain changes through relentless, small repetitions. It is better to interrupt your anxiety 50 times a day for 10 seconds than to do 1 hour of therapy once a week and let your brain run wild the rest of the time. Every single time you choose the pivot over the panic, you are laying down a microscopic layer of myelin on the new circuit. It is a game of volume. You need to accrue reps. Think of yourself as a bodybuilder. Every time you successfully redirect your attention, that is 1 rep. You need thousands of reps to see the muscle grow. Do not get discouraged if you don't feel different after a day. You don't see biceps after 1 day at the gym. But if you trust the process, the biology is inevitable. The structure will change. The extinction burst. I need to warn you about a phenomenon called the extinction burst. When you start starving a neural pathway, the brain often resists. Before a behavior disappears, it tends to spike in intensity. You might start this protocol and find that for the first few days, your anxiety actually gets louder. It screams. It throws a tantrum. The brain is saying, "Hey, we always take the highway. Why aren't we taking the highway? Maybe I need to send a stronger signal to get your attention." This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of success. It means the old circuit is dying. It is flailing. It is the last gasp of the monster. If you give in during the extinction burst, if you say, "This is too hard, I'm going back to worrying," you reinforce the anxiety stronger than ever. You teach the brain that if it screams loud enough, you will obey. But if you hold the line, if you persist through the burst, the signal will collapse. The fever will break. Environmental neuroplasticity. Your brain is not just reacting to your thoughts. It is reacting to your environment. If you sit in the same chair, in the same messy room, with the same lighting, doing the same routine, your brain will default to the same thoughts. The environment itself becomes a trigger. You can hack neuroplasticity by changing your physical space. Move your furniture, change the lighting, sit in a different chair, take a different route to work. When you change the input, you force the brain to wake up. You disrupt the autopilot. New environments stimulate the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. BDNF is like fertilizer for your neurons. It encourages the growth of new connections. If you are trying to heal a sick brain in the exact same environment where it got sick, you are fighting an uphill battle. Shake the snow globe. Give your brain something new to process. The visualization hack. We talked about how the brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. We use that to explain why worry hurts you. But you can use that same mechanism to heal you. You can use mental rehearsal to wire the brain for confidence without actually leaving your house. Athletes do this. A skier will visualize the run turn by turn in their mind. Studies show that this mental practice fires the same motor neurons as the physical act. You can visualize your calm self. Sit quietly and imagine a scenario that usually triggers you: a meeting, a flight, a confrontation. But in the visualization, imagine yourself handling it with absolute cool. See yourself breathing slowly. Hear your voice steady and low. Feel your shoulders relaxed. Run this simulation over and over. You are tricking your brain. You are laying down the myelin for confidence before the event even happens. You are pre-paving the high road so that when the real event occurs, the path of least resistance is the one you constructed in your mind. The timeline of repair. How long does this take? This is the question everyone asks. They want a date. Scientific consensus varies, but a common benchmark is 66 days to form a new habit. However, for deep-seated emotional rewiring, you should commit to a longer horizon. Think in terms of seasons, not days. Give yourself 3 months. 3 months of relentless interruption, redirection, and repetition. That might sound like a long time, but consider the alternative. You have already spent years strengthening the anxiety. What is 3 months to reclaim the rest of your life? Do not look for the finish line. Look at your feet. Just take the next step. Just do the next rep. The takeaway. Here is the truth that should empower you. You are the architect. Until now, you have been a passive resident in your own brain, living in a house built by trauma and repetition. You thought the walls were load-bearing. You thought the layout was permanent. It isn't. You have the sledgehammer. You have the blueprints. Every time you refuse to engage with a worry, you are knocking down a wall of the prison. Every time you choose to focus on the present, you are laying a brick for the sanctuary. The process is biological. It is mechanical. It is inevitable. If you do the work, the brain must change. It has no choice. It follows the laws of physics. Stop waiting for the anxiety to leave. It won't leave on its own. You have to starve it out. You have to dismantle it, neuron by neuron, and build something better in its place. We have now covered the mechanism of change. But to fuel this change, we need to look at the chemical soup your brain is swimming in. You cannot build a new brain if you are poisoned by stress hormones and starved of calming neurotransmitters. In the next chapter, Breaking the Loop, we will move from theory to practice. We are going to get into the trenches of cognitive diffusion and learn exactly how to separate the thinker from the thought in real time. It is time to get to work. Chapter 5. Breaking the Loop. You are in a room with no doors. The walls are closing in. The noise level is rising. You are pacing back and forth, retracing the same 6 steps over and over again. This is the mental landscape of the loop. It starts innocently enough. A thought pops into your head. That pain in my side, what is that? Most people would dismiss it, but your brain grabs it. It examines it. It magnifies it. It could be appendicitis. It could be a kidney failure. My cousin had kidney failure. He was in the hospital for months. Who will take care of the kids? I don't have enough disability insurance. We will lose the house. Within seconds, you have gone from a muscle cramp to homelessness. You try to stop thinking about it, but the more you resist, the stickier the thought becomes. You circle back to the start. Is the pain still there? Yes, it must be getting worse. You are trapped in a neurological roundabout. You are driving in circles, burning gas, wearing down the tires, and getting absolutely nowhere. In the previous chapter, we discussed the theory of neuroplasticity, the idea that you can rewire your brain. Now, we are going to discuss the practice. We are going to learn how to grab the steering wheel and force the car off the roundabout. This chapter is about intervention. It is about the specific, tactical tools you need to break the cognitive loop. These are not abstract concepts. These are weapons. The mechanics of stuckness. Why do thoughts get stuck? Why can you remember a random commercial jingle from 1995, but you can't remember where you put your keys? And why, specifically, do scary thoughts stick harder than happy ones? It comes down to effective labeling. Your brain prioritizes information based on emotional intensity. If a thought carries a high electrical charge of emotion, specifically fear or anger, your hippocampus tags it as critical data. It moves it to the top of the stack. It keeps it in the active cache of your working memory, because it believes this data is necessary for your immediate survival. When you try to fight a thought, you are adding more emotional charge to it. You are adding fear to the fear. You are tagging the file as urgent, so the brain serves it up again. To break the loop, we have to remove the tag. We have to strip the thought of its emotional weight so that it becomes just another piece of neutral data, like the color of the wall or the sound of the wind. We do this through cognitive diffusion. Tool 1. The radio metaphor. Imagine you are trying to work at your desk and there is a radio in the corner of the room. It is tuned to a station that plays nothing but doom metal and conspiracy theories. It is loud, it is annoying, it is screaming that the world is ending. Most people try to destroy the radio. They yell at it, they throw things at it, they spend all their energy trying to figure out how to turn it off. But the knobs are broken. You cannot turn it off. The more you fight the radio, the less work you get done. You are focused entirely on the noise. Cognitive diffusion is the act of letting the radio play and getting back to work anyway. You acknowledge the noise. You say, there is that doom and gloom station again, pretty loud today. And then you turn your attention back to your spreadsheet. You do not argue with the radio. You do not try to convince the radio that the world is not ending. You treat it as background noise. This is how you must treat your anxious thoughts. When the loop starts, you are going to fail, you are going to fail. Don't scream back, no, I'm not. Instead, say, I hear you. Thank you for the input. I am going to keep writing this email now. By refusing to engage in the argument, you stop feeding the loop. You starve the fire of its oxygen. Eventually, the radio station doesn't turn off, but it fades into the background. It becomes white noise. You can live with white noise. Tool 2. Labeling the affect. There is a fascinating study involving fMRI scans of the brain. When participants were shown pictures of angry faces, their amygdalae lit up. They felt stress. But when the participants were asked to simply name the emotion, to say the word anger, the amygdalae deactivated and the prefrontal cortex lit up. Putting a label on an emotion moves the processing from the emotional brain to the logical brain. It is a biological toggle switch. Name it to tame it. When you are in a loop, you are usually swimming in a vague soup of terror. You need to get specific. You need to narrate your experience like a scientist observing a subject. Don't say, I am freaking out. Say, I am noticing a sensation of tightness in my chest. I am noticing a rapid heartbeat. I am noticing a thought pattern that is predicting a catastrophic future. Use the phrase, I am having the thought that. I am having the thought that I am unlovable. I am having the thought that I will faint. This simple linguistic shift creates distance. It reminds you that the thought is an object. It is a thing passing through you. It is not you. Tool 3. The zoom out, temporal distancing. The loop thrives on immediacy. It convinces you that this moment right now is the most important moment in human history. And if you don't solve this problem instantly, everything is over. You need to shatter this illusion by changing your time horizon. When you are stuck on a worry, ask yourself 3 questions. Will this matter in 1 week? Will this matter in 1 year? Will this matter in 10 years? Usually, the answer to the first question is maybe, and the answer to the last 2 is no. If you are worrying about a stutter during a presentation or a slightly awkward text message, force your brain to fast forward 10 years. Imagine yourself a decade from now. You are living your life. You are happy. Do you even remember that text message? No, it is dust. It is nothing. By zooming out, you realize how small the monster actually is. You realize you are agonizing over a speck of dust on the timeline of your life. This perspective allows the cortex to regain control from the amygdala, which has no concept of time. Tool 4. Sensory anchoring. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sometimes the loop is too fast for logic. The thoughts are spinning so quickly that you can't even label them. You are dissociating. You feel like you are floating away. In this state, you cannot use your mind to fix your mind. You must use your senses. You must anchor yourself back to the physical reality of the present moment. The most effective protocol for this is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Stop what you are doing. Look around. Name out loud. 5 things you can see. The crack in the wall. The blue pen. The light reflecting off the table. The texture of your jeans. The cloud in the sky. 4 things you can feel. The chair against your back. Your feet on the floor. The fabric of your shirt. The air on your skin. 3 things you can hear. The hum of the refrigerator, a car passing by, your own breathing. 2 things you can smell: coffee, soap, the rain. 1 thing you can taste: toothpaste, gum, or just the inside of your mouth. Why does this work? Because the brain has limited bandwidth. It cannot run a high-speed catastrophe simulation and process intense sensory data at the same time. By forcing your brain to identify specific sensory details, you are stealing energy away from the worry loop. You are grounding yourself in the here and now, which is the only place where you are actually safe. Tool 5. Bilateral stimulation. Anxiety often gets trapped in one hemisphere of the brain, usually the right hemisphere, which processes negative emotion and imagery. We need to get the left hemisphere, logic and language, back online and integrate the two. We can do this through bilateral stimulation. This means stimulating the left and right sides of the body alternately. This is the basis of EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. But you can do a simplified version anywhere. Walking. The simple act of walking is bilateral stimulation. Left foot, right foot. This is why pacing helps. But make it purposeful. Walk briskly. Feel the rhythm. Tapping. Cross your arms over your chest like a mummy. Tap your left shoulder, then your right shoulder. Left, right. Left, right. Do this rhythmically for a minute while focusing on your breathing. Auditory. Pass a phone back and forth between ears, or listen to 8D audio or bilateral beats where the sound pans from left to right. This rhythmic alternating input forces communication across the corpus callosum, the bridge between brain hemispheres. It has a naturally soothing effect on the nervous system. It helps to digest the stuck emotional energy. Tool 6. The just one thing rule. The loop often leads to paralysis because the problem feels too big. You look at the mess in your house and your brain says, "It's a disaster. It will take hours. I'm so lazy. I can't do this." And you freeze. You are looking at the mountain. You need to look at the pebble. When you feel overwhelmed, invoke the just one thing rule. Tell yourself, "I do not have to clean the house. I just have to pick up this one sock. I do not have to write the book. I just have to write one sentence." Shrink the world down to a single micro-action. A micro-action is so small that it is impossible to fail. Once you pick up the sock, the dopamine hit of completion breaks the paralysis. You might pick up another sock. You might not. It doesn't matter. The goal isn't to finish the task, the goal is to break the loop of inertia. Action is the antidote to anxiety. Anxiety lives in the gap between stimulus and response. Close the gap with action, no matter how small. Tool 7. Paradoxical intention. This is the nuclear option. It is counterintuitive, scary, and incredibly effective. The loop is fueled by resistance. You are terrified of the anxiety, so you fight it, which makes it stronger. Paradoxical intention involves doing the exact opposite, trying to make it worse. If you are afraid of having a panic attack, dare yourself to have the biggest panic attack possible. Say to your brain, "Is that all you got? Come on, make my heart beat faster. I want to see 200 beats per minute. Make me sweat more. Let's really freak out. Give me your best shot. Taunt the monster. Invite it in for tea." Here is what happens. You cannot do it. You cannot will a panic attack into existence. When you stop resisting and start requesting, the feedback loop is shattered. The anxiety relies on you running away. When you turn around and run toward it, it evaporates. This technique shifts you from a posture of victimhood to a posture of command. It proves to your amygdala that the sensations are not dangerous. Tool 8. The silly voice technique. Your inner critic usually speaks in a very serious, authoritative voice. It sounds like a judge or a parent or a news anchor. That is why you believe it. Strip the authority away by changing the voice. When you hear the thought, "You are going to ruin everything," replay that thought in your head using the voice of a cartoon character. Hear it in the voice of Mickey Mouse. Hear it in the voice of a quacking duck. Hear it in a high-pitched, sped-up chipmunk voice. "You are going to ruin everything!" Sounds terrifying in a deep baritone. "You are going to ruin everything!" Sounds ridiculous when sung to the tune of Happy Birthday. You are disrupting the encoding of the memory. You are taking a scary object and painting it pink. It becomes impossible to take the threat seriously. You might even laugh. And if you are laughing, you cannot be in fight or flight. The exit strategy. Breaking the loop is a skill. It is not a magic trick. The first time you try these tools, they might feel clunky. You might try the 5-4-3-2-1 method and still feel anxious. That is okay. The goal is not to instantly feel like a Zen monk. The goal is to interrupt the automatic pattern. If you manage to delay the spiral by 30 seconds, you won. If you manage to label the thought instead of becoming the thought, you won. You are building muscle memory. The loop has been your default setting for years. It is a deep groove in the record. You are trying to lift the needle and place it somewhere else. The needle will slip back. You will have to lift it again. This is the work. There is no destination where you never have an anxious thought again. The aim is to reach a place where an anxious thought arises and you simply say, "Oh, that's interesting," and keep moving. You are the operator of the machine. The machine will throw errors. It will flash warning lights. But you are the one who decides whether to pull the emergency brake or to keep driving. Keep driving. Now that we have the tools to handle the mind, we need to look at the fuel tank. You can have the best mental strategies in the world, but if your biology is compromised, if your chemistry is off, you will be fighting a losing battle. In the next chapter, The Chemistry of Calm, we are going to look at what you are putting into your body. We will discuss caffeine, sugar, alcohol, and the specific neurotransmitters, GABA, serotonin, that act as the brakes for your nervous system. We are going to optimize your biological hardware. Chapter 6, The Chemistry of Calm. You cannot build a house on a swamp. It does not matter how beautiful the blueprints are. It does not matter how skilled the carpenters are. If the ground beneath the foundation is unstable, the house will sink. In the previous chapters, we have been discussing the blueprints. We have talked about cognitive framing, exposure therapy, and breaking the worry loop. These are psychological tools. They are the software of the mind. But you are not just a mind. You are a biological organism. You are a sack of chemistry. If your biological hardware is compromised, if your neurotransmitters are depleted, your blood sugar is crashing, and your veins are pumping with stimulants, then all the psychological tricks in the world will fail. You cannot think your way out of a chemical imbalance. You might be doing all the right things mentally, meditating, journaling, practicing gratitude, and yet you still feel a low-level vibration of anxiety humming in the background. You feel brittle, you feel on edge. This is usually because you are unknowingly poisoning your own system. In this chapter, we are going to audit your chemistry. We are going to look at what you put into your mouth and how it translates into how you feel in your head. We are going to discuss the big three agitators, caffeine, sugar, and alcohol, and we are going to introduce the chemical peacemakers, GABA, serotonin, and the vagus nerve. This is not a diet plan. This is a biohacking protocol for a calmer brain. The stimulant trap, liquid stress. Let's start with the hardest truth. If you are an anxious person and you are drinking caffeine, you are voluntarily strapping yourself into a torture device. I know, you love your coffee. You feel like you need it to function. You believe it gives you energy. It doesn't. Caffeine does not give you energy. It lends you stress. Here is the mechanism. Throughout the day, a chemical called adenosine builds up in your brain. Adenosine binds to receptors and tells your brain, "We are tired. It is time to slow down." Caffeine is a master of disguise. It looks exactly like adenosine on a molecular level. It slides into those receptors and blocks them. It prevents your brain from realizing it is tired. But the brain is smart. When it realizes the adenosine is blocked, it panics. It signals the adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol. It initiates a fight or flight response because it assumes an emergency is keeping you awake. When you drink a double espresso, you are mechanically inducing the exact physiological state of a panic attack. You are raising your heart rate, you are constricting your blood vessels, you are making your hands shake. If you are prone to anxiety, your amygdala is already looking for a threat. When you flood your system with caffeine, the amygdala feels the adrenaline and says, "See, I told you we were in danger. Look at how fast the heart is beating." You are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are revving the engine of a car that is already overheating. The first step in the chemistry of calm is an experiment. I challenge you to quit caffeine for 14 days. Yes, it will hurt. You will get a headache. You will feel sluggish. That is the withdrawal. That proves the addiction. But after day 4 or 5, something miraculous happens. The background static quiets down. The jitters vanish. Your sleep deepens. You realize that what you thought was your personality, being high-strung, was actually just a side effect of your morning brew. If you cannot quit, you must limit it. No caffeine after 12 p.m. And never, ever drink it on an empty stomach. That is like pouring gasoline on a fire. The sugar roller coaster. The hypoglycemic panic. The second saboteur is sugar. The modern diet is a disaster for mental health. We consume massive amounts of refined carbohydrates and sugar, which sends our blood glucose on a wild roller coaster ride. When you eat a donut or a bagel, your blood sugar spikes. You feel a momentary burst of pleasure, dopamine. But what goes up must come down. Your pancreas dumps insulin into your blood to manage the sugar, and you crash. This is the danger zone, hypoglycemia. When your blood sugar drops too low, your brain perceives it as a life-threatening emergency. The brain runs on glucose. If the supply drops, the brain thinks it is starving. To save you, the brain releases a massive surge of adrenaline to liberate stored glucose from the liver. Do you see the pattern? Shaking, sweating, confusion, irritability, fear. The symptoms of a sugar crash are almost identical to the symptoms of a panic attack. Many people who think they are having a mid-afternoon anxiety attack are actually just having a blood sugar crash. They don't need a therapist, they need some protein. To heal the anxious brain, you must stabilize the fuel supply. You need to get off the roller coaster. This means a diet high in protein and healthy fats. Fats are slow-burning fuel. They provide a steady, consistent stream of energy without the spikes and crashes. Eat breakfast. Do not skip meals. When you skip a meal, your body runs on stress hormones to keep you moving. You are literally fueling your day with anxiety. The alcohol lie, the loan shark. I just need a drink to take the edge off. This is the most common self-medication strategy in the world, and it works. Temporarily. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. It mimics the effects of GABA, the brain's primary relaxation neurotransmitter. It sedates the amygdala, it shuts off the chatter. For a few hours, you feel peace. But alcohol is a loan shark. It gives you 2 hours of relief today, but it charges you with interest tomorrow. This is the phenomenon of hangxiety, hangover anxiety. Here is the neuroscience. Your brain creates a balance between excitation, glutamate, and inhibition, GABA. When you drink alcohol, you artificially boost GABA, sedation, and suppress glutamate, excitement. The brain, sensing this imbalance, tries to compensate. It stops producing its own GABA and ramps up the production of GABA receptors to fight the sedation. When the alcohol wears off, the artificial GABA is gone. But your brain is now stuck in a state of hyperexcitation. You have high glutamate and almost zero GABA. The result? You wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding. The next day, you are jittery, paranoid, and hypersensitive to sound and light. Your threshold for panic is rock bottom. So what do? You have a drink to fix it, and the cycle tightens. If you are serious about healing your anxiety, you must look at your relationship with alcohol honestly. You are likely borrowing happiness from tomorrow to pay for today, and you are bankrupting your brain in the process. I am not saying you can never have a glass of wine again, but while you are in the repair phase of your brain, while you are rewiring the machine, alcohol is sabotage. It destroys your sleep architecture, which we will cover in Chapter 8, and chemically induces anxiety. Give your brain a break. Let it relearn how to make its own GABA. The breaks. Understanding GABA. We have talked about the agitators. Now let's talk about the solution. The most important molecule for the anxious person is GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. GABA is the brake fluid of the brain. It is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Its job is to calm down nerve activity. When a neuron is firing too rapidly, fear, racing thoughts, GABA binds to it and says, "Shh, slow down." People with chronic anxiety often have a GABA deficiency. Their brakes are worn out. You cannot simply take a GABA pill and expect it to work. GABA supplements absorb poorly across the blood-brain barrier. You have to support your body's ability to produce it. How do we do that? Vitamin B6. This is the essential cofactor for synthesizing GABA. Without B6, the factory shuts down. Magnesium. The master mineral of relaxation. Magnesium binds to GABA receptors and helps them function. Most modern humans are magnesium deficient due to soil depletion. A quality magnesium glycinate supplement before bed can be a game changer for the anxious brain. L-theanine. Found in green tea, this amino acid increases GABA, serotonin, and dopamine levels. It promotes alpha brainwaves, a state of relaxed alertness. This is why monks drink tea. It calms the body without dulling the mind. The second brain, the gut-brain axis. We cannot talk about chemistry without talking about the gut. For a long time, we thought the brain was a castle on a hill, isolated from the rest of the body. We now know there is a superhighway connecting your gut and your brain. This is the gut-brain axis. Here is a staggering statistic. 95% of your body's serotonin is produced in your gut, not your brain. Serotonin is the happiness molecule. It regulates mood, sleep, and anxiety. If your gut is inflamed, if your microbiome is decimated by processed food and antibiotics, you cannot produce the serotonin you need. A chaotic gut leads to a chaotic mind. Inflammation in the gut sends signals up the vagus nerve to the brain, triggering inflammation in the brain, neuroinflammation. An inflamed brain is an anxious brain. To heal the mind, you must heal the gut. Probiotics and prebiotics. Feed the good bacteria. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and kefir are natural antidepressants. Elimination. Identify foods that irritate you. Gluten and dairy are common inflammatory triggers for many people. If you eat a sandwich and feel brain fog or irritability an hour later, that is a data point. Listen to it. The vagus nerve. The physical reset button connecting the brain to the body. It is the longest nerve in the body, wandering from the brainstem down to the heart, lungs, and digestive organs. The vagus nerve is the commander of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. When your vagus nerve has high tone, you recover from stress quickly. You bounce back. When it has low tone, you get stuck in fight or flight. You can chemically and mechanically stimulate the vagus nerve to release acetylcholine, which acts as a tranquilizer for the heart. Cold exposure. We mentioned this in Chapter 2, but it bears repeating here for its chemical effect. Sudden cold stimulates the vagus nerve. Singing and humming. The nerve passes through the vocal cords. The vibration of humming, a low om sound, mechanically stimulates the nerve. This is why chanting is a part of almost every meditative tradition in history. It isn't magic, it's biology. Deep, slow breathing. Specifically, slowing your breath to 6 breaths per minute. This syncs your heart rate variability with your breathing, maximizing vagal tone. Hydration. The simplest hack. It sounds too simple to be true, but dehydration is a primary cause of anxiety. Your brain is 75% water. Even mild dehydration, 1 to 2%, causes a release of cortisol. The body perceives the lack of water as a drought, a survival threat. It tightens the vessels, it spikes the stress hormones. Many people wake up anxious because they are dehydrated. They then immediately drink coffee, a diuretic, dehydrating themselves further. The protocol. Before you do anything, before you check your phone, before you have coffee, drink a large glass of water with a pinch of sea salt for electrolytes. You are replenishing the ocean in which your neurons swim. You are turning off the drought alarm. The cortisol detox. Cortisol, the stress hormone, has a half-life. It takes time to leave the body. If you are chronically anxious, you are bathing your brain in cortisol 24/7. This shrinks the hippocampus, memory, and enlarges the amygdala, fear. To lower cortisol chemically, exercise. This is the only way to burn off the accumulated stress hormones. You must move the body. It doesn't have to be intense. A 20-minute brisk walk flushes the system. Nature. Studies show that spending 20 minutes in nature lowers salivary cortisol levels significantly. The fractals in trees and leaves have a soothing effect on the visual cortex. Ashwagandha, an adaptogenic herb that has been shown in clinical studies to lower cortisol levels. Always consult a doctor before starting supplements, but know that nature provides tools. The new baseline. I want you to imagine your anxiety as a fire. Your thoughts are the sparks, but your chemistry is the fuel. If your floor is covered in gasoline, caffeine, sugar, alcohol, dehydration, one tiny spark, a negative thought, will burn the whole house down. If your floor is wet, good nutrition, hydration, GABA, sleep, the spark will land and sizzle out. This is resilience. Resilience is not just a mindset. It is a physiological state. It is a full tank of gas. It is a well-oiled engine. By cleaning up your chemistry, you are raising the threshold for what it takes to make you anxious. You are making yourself harder to hijack. You might be thinking, this is a lot to change. I have to quit coffee, eat better, take vitamins, and exercise. Start with one thing. Start with the water. Then tackle the sugar. Then look at the caffeine. Treat your body with the respect you would give a multi-million-dollar race car, because that is what it is. It is the vehicle that carries you through this life. If you put diesel in a Ferrari, it will break. Stop putting garbage in your engine and wondering why it is misfiring. Takeaway. Here is the summary for the chemistry of calm. Eliminate the agitators. Reduce caffeine, liquid stress. Stabilize blood sugar, avoid the crash. And be wary of alcohol, the loan shark. Support the brakes. Magnesium, vitamin B6, and L-theanine can help your body produce GABA. Heal the gut. Your serotonin is made in your belly. Eat fermented foods and avoid inflammatory triggers. Hydrate. Dehydration is a stress signal. Drink water first. Stimulate the vagus. Hum, breathe, and use cold water to mechanically activate the relaxation response. You are now optimizing the machine. The hardware is being repaired. But there is one behavior, one specific habit that most anxious people do to protect themselves, which actually makes their anxiety infinitely worse. It is the habit of avoidance. In the next chapter, Exposure is the Antidote, we are going to do the hardest thing yet. We are going to learn why you must move toward the thing that scares you, and how doing so is the only way to teach your brain that you are safe. Chapter 7. Exposure is the Antidote. The comfort zone is a lie. We are told that the comfort zone is a place of rest, We imagine it as a sanctuary, a fortress, where we can recover from the chaos of the world. But for the anxious brain, the comfort zone is not a fortress. It is a prison cell that gets smaller every single day. Here is the brutal reality of anxiety. The more you avoid the things you fear, the more you feed the fear. If you are afraid of driving on the highway and you choose to take the back roads, you feel a momentary wave of relief. You think, "Good, I kept myself safe." But you didn't. You actually just taught your amygdala a dangerous lesson. You confirmed the hypothesis that the highway is a death trap. You validated the terror. Tomorrow, the highway will look even scarier, and soon the back roads will look scary too. So you will stop driving altogether. Then the grocery store will feel unsafe. Then the mailbox. Eventually, you are trapped in your bedroom, convinced that the world outside is a war zone, all because you tried to stay safe. This is the cycle of avoidance. It is the primary mechanism that keeps anxiety alive. You cannot heal an anxious brain while you are running away. In this chapter, we are going to discuss the most effective, evidence-based treatment for anxiety in the history of psychology. It is not a pill, it is not a meditation, it is exposure. We are going to learn why you must walk directly toward the fire. We are going to learn the neuroscience of fear extinction. And I am going to give you a protocol to dismantle your fears one by one until the world becomes open to you again. The biology of avoidance. To understand why avoidance is so destructive, we have to look at operant conditioning. There are two ways to reinforce a behavior: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is simple. You eat a cookie, it tastes good, you eat another cookie. Reward leads to repetition. Negative reinforcement is trickier. It is the removal of something bad. Imagine you have a headache. You take a pill, the headache goes away. You are now much more likely to take that pill again. The reward was the relief from pain. Avoidance is pure negative reinforcement. The trigger: you get invited to a party. The anxiety: your heart races. You think, "I'll look stupid, I'll panic." The behavior: you text your friend and say, "I can't make it, I'm sick." The result: the anxiety instantly vanishes. You sit on your couch and watch TV. You feel calm. Your brain records this sequence. Party equals danger. Staying home equals safety. Avoidance equals survival. Every time you cancel plans, every time you check the exits, every time you ask for reassurance, you are chemically rewarding your brain for being a coward. You are hitting the save button on the anxiety program. You are trading long-term freedom for short-term relief, and the interest rate on that loan is catastrophic. The only way the amygdala learns. Here is the catch. Your amygdala does not speak English. You can stand in front of an elevator and tell yourself, "This elevator is statistically safe. Millions of people use elevators every day. It will not fall." Your prefrontal cortex understands this. Your amygdala does not care. It still perceives a metal coffin. The only way the amygdala learns is through experience. It is a biological machine that updates its software based on sensory data, not intellectual data. To update the software, to change the tag from dangerous to safe, you must violate the expectation. This is called prediction error. Your brain predicts, if I step into the elevator, I will die. You must step into the elevator. The doors must close. The anxiety will spike. And then nothing happens. You do not die. You do not go insane. You step out on the 10th floor. Your brain experiences a prediction error. The outcome did not match the forecast. The amygdala is forced to say, we didn't die. Maybe the map is wrong. If you do this once, the map gets a sticky note. If you do it 10 times, the map gets updated. If you do it 100 times, the elevator becomes boring. This process is called habituation. It is the nervous system getting bored of a stimulus. You cannot habituate to something you are not there to experience. You have to be in the room. Inhibitory learning. Modern neuroscience has refined our understanding of exposure. We used to think we were erasing the fear memory. We now know that isn't true. The fear memory, elevator equals danger, is permanent. It is burned into your neurons. What we are doing with exposure is building a new memory on top of it. This is called inhibitory learning. We are building a safety memory, elevator equals safe, that is stronger, faster, and more robust than the fear memory. We are building a second neural pathway that inhibits the first one. This explains why, even after you heal, you might still have a random flash of fear on a bad day. The old path is still there. But if you have done the work, the new safety path will win the competition. The prefrontal cortex will immediately inhibit the amygdala. But you cannot build the safety path by thinking about it. You have to walk it. The hierarchy of fear. We do not start by jumping out of an airplane. That is called flooding, and while it works, it is often too traumatic for people to handle on their own. We use systematic desensitization. We build a ladder. I want you to create a fear hierarchy. Take a piece of paper. Write down the things that scare you. Rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is mild discomfort and 10 is total panic. Let's use social anxiety as an example. Level 1, making eye contact with a cashier. Level 3, asking a stranger for the time. Level 5, calling a store to ask about their hours. Level 7, going to a small dinner party. Level 10, giving a speech. Most people try to jump straight to level 10. They fail, panic, and then quit. You start at level 1. You master level 1. Then you move to level 2. You are weightlifting. You don't walk into the gym and try to bench press 300 pounds. You start with the empty bar. You build the muscle. The muscle is tolerance of uncertainty. The exposure protocol. Here is exactly how to execute an exposure session. This is the gold standard of cognitive behavioral therapy. Step 1. The setup. Choose a task from your hierarchy that is a challenge, around a 4 or 5 on the scale. Let's say it's sitting in a crowded coffee shop for 20 minutes. Step 2. The prediction. Write down what you think will happen. Be specific. I will panic. My hands will shake. Everyone will stare at me. I will have to run out. Rate your expected anxiety. 8 out of 10. Step 3. The action. Micro-exposure. Go to the coffee shop. Buy a drink. Sit down. Step 4. Response prevention. Crucial. This is where most people fail. You must sit there without your safety crutches. Do not look at your phone to distract yourself. Do not sit near the exit. Do not call a friend. Do not clench your muscles to fight the feeling. You must simply sit there and let the anxiety hit you. Step 5. The wave. Your anxiety will spike. It will go up. 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. Your brain will scream, "Leave! Leave now!" You must stay. You are waiting for the crest. If you leave when the anxiety is high, you reinforce the fear. You teach the brain, "We escaped just in time." You have to stay until the anxiety drops by at least 50%. Biologically, your body cannot maintain peak panic forever. You will run out of adrenaline. The parasympathetic system will kick in. It is inevitable. Wait for it. Watch the number drop. 8, 7, 6, 4. Step 6. The review. Once the anxiety has dropped, you can leave. Now look at your prediction sheet. Did everyone stare at you? No. Did you die? No. Did the panic last forever? No. It lasted 12 minutes. You have just generated prediction error. You have just laid a brick on the safety path. Eliminating safety behaviors. We need to talk about the subtle ways you are cheating. You might be doing the exposure, you might be going to the party or driving the car, but you are bringing safety behaviors with you. You go to the party, but you only talk to your spouse. You drive on the highway, but you grip the steering wheel until your knuckles are white. You go to the gym, but you check your pulse every 5 minutes. You carry a bottle of water or a Xanax just in case. These are crutches. When you use a safety behavior, you rob yourself of the learning. Your brain says, "Phew, we survived the party, but only because we stood in the corner with John." The party is still dangerous. John is the safety. To truly heal, you must drop the crutches. You have to show your brain that you are the safety. Not the water bottle, not the phone, not the exit. You. This is terrifying. It requires courage, but it is the only way to reach the deep limbic level of the brain. You have to be defenseless to prove to yourself that you don't need defense. Interoceptive exposure, fearing the body. For many of you, the trigger isn't outside, elevators, crowds. The trigger is inside. You are afraid of your own heart rate. You are afraid of dizziness. You are afraid of the sensation of fear itself. This is panic disorder. To fix this, we use interoceptive exposure. We intentionally induce the symptoms you are afraid of. Fear of racing heart? Do jumping jacks for 1 minute. Let your heart pound. Stand there and feel it. Teach your brain that a fast heart is not a heart attack. Fear of dizziness. Spin around in a chair. Then stop and sit with the spinning sensation. Teach your brain that dizziness is uncomfortable but not fatal. Fear of breathlessness. Breathe through a thin straw for 2 minutes. Feel the air hunger. Realize you are still getting enough oxygen. You are bored of the monster. You are poking it with a stick. You are demystifying the biological sensations. When you stop fearing the symptoms of fear, the fear has no fuel. The 20-minute rule. One of the biggest mistakes people make is doing exposures that are too short. If you walk into an elevator, get scared, and immediately walk out, you have done damage. You have sensitized yourself. You experienced the rise of anxiety, but not the fall. You must follow the 20-minute rule. Commit to staying in the situation for at least 20 minutes, or until your anxiety drops by half. You need to give your nervous system enough time to realize the threat isn't real. If you leave early, you take the fear home with you. If you stay, you leave the fear there. Surrender, the ultimate weapon. During exposure, your instinct will be to white-knuckle it, to grit your teeth and get through it. This is endurance, but it is not acceptance. The highest form of exposure is surrender. When the wave of panic hits you in the coffee shop, instead of bracing against it, drop your shoulders. Open your hands. Say to the anxiety, "Okay, here we are. Do your worst. I am not moving. I am not fighting. Wash over me." Float. When you stop fighting, you stop signaling danger to the amygdala. You break the feedback loop instantly. It is like quicksand. The more you struggle, the faster you sink. If you lie back and spread your arms, you float. The mindset. I am willing to be uncomfortable. This entire chapter hinges on one shift in mindset. You have been operating under the belief, I must avoid discomfort at all costs. You must switch to the belief, I am willing to be uncomfortable in order to be free. Discomfort is the price of admission to your new life. Anxiety is not a wall. It is a smokescreen. It looks solid, but if you walk into it, you pass right through. You have to decide that your world is too small. You have to get angry at the limitation. You have to want your life back more than you want to feel safe. The takeaway. Here is the summary for the exposure protocol. Avoidance is poison. It feels good now, but it makes the fear stronger tomorrow. Build a ladder. Start small. Rate your fears. Climb step by step. Stay in the room. Do not leave until the anxiety drops. You must experience the habituation. Drop the crutches. No phones, no safety people, no distraction. Face it naked. Surrender. Do not fight the feeling. Lean into it. This is the hardest work you will ever do, but it is the most rewarding. Every time you face a fear and survive, you grow stronger. You reclaim a piece of territory that the anxiety stole from you. You are expanding your map. Now that we have covered how to face the waking world, we need to talk about the time when you are most vulnerable. The time when your defenses are down and your brain is supposed to be repairing itself. Sleep. For the anxious person, the night is often the battleground. In the next chapter, The Architecture of Sleep and Repair, we are going to fix your nights. We are going to learn how to quiet the racing mind at 2 a.m. and how to optimize the glymphatic system to wash the stress out of your brain while you rest. It is time to rest. Chapter 8. The Architecture of Sleep and Repair. There is a specific kind of loneliness that only exists at 3 a.m. The world is dead silent, the house is dark. The only sound is the hum of the refrigerator and the thumping of your own heart. You are exhausted, bone-deep, aching exhaustion, but your eyes are wide open. Your mind is not resting, it is racing. It is replaying a conversation from 3 years ago. It is calculating your bank balance. It is predicting every possible way tomorrow could go wrong. You look at the clock, 3:14 a.m. You calculate, if I fall asleep right now, I can get 3 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. You close your eyes. You command yourself to sleep. But the command itself creates tension. You toss, you turn, you flip the pillow. The anxiety begins to mount. I'm going to be a zombie tomorrow. I won't be able to focus. I'll mess up the presentation. Why can't I just sleep? What is wrong with me? Now it is 3:45 a.m. The panic sets in. The bed, which should be a sanctuary, has become a battleground. If this sounds familiar, you are caught in the most vicious cycle of the anxious brain, the insomnia loop. Anxiety destroys sleep, and a lack of sleep generates anxiety. They are fuel for each other. You cannot heal the anxious brain without fixing your sleep, but you cannot fix your sleep while your brain is on fire. In this chapter, we are going to break this cycle. We are going to look at sleep not as a luxury, but as a non-negotiable biological maintenance window. We will explore the glymphatic system, the brain's nightly cleaning crew, and I will give you a strict military-grade protocol to reclaim the night. The brain's night shift. For a long time, scientists thought sleep was just the body turning off to save energy. We thought the brain went dormant. We were wrong. When you fall asleep, your brain does not turn off. It shifts gears into a high-intensity repair mode. In 2012, researchers discovered a microscopic plumbing system in the brain that they called the glymphatic system. Here is how it works. During the day, your neurons are firing rapidly, burning energy, glucose. This metabolic process creates waste products, specifically proteins like beta amyloid and tau. Think of this as the exhaust fumes from a running car. During the day, this trash accumulates in the spaces between your brain cells. It creates a neural smog. This is why by 6 p.m. you feel foggy, irritable, and reactive. Your brain is literally full of garbage. When you enter deep, slow-wave sleep, a miracle happens. Your brain cells shrink by up to 60%. This opens up the channels between them. Cerebrospinal fluid rushes in like a high-pressure fire hose and flushes the toxins out of your brain and down into the liver to be processed. This is the wash cycle. If you do not sleep, or if your sleep is fragmented and shallow, the wash cycle never happens. The toxins remain. You wake up with a brain that is still dirty. The smog interferes with your neurotransmitters. It makes your amygdala hypersensitive, more fear, and your prefrontal cortex sluggish, less logic. A study from the University of California showed that just one night of sleep deprivation can increase anxiety levels by up to 30%. The scan showed the amygdala rewiring itself to be more reactive to negative stimuli. So when you say, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," you are actually saying, "I will choose to be anxious while I am alive." The circadian architect. To fix your sleep, we have to fix your rhythm. You are a solar-powered organism. Deep in your brain, in the hypothalamus, lies a cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN. This is your master clock. It controls the release of every hormone in your body based on the time of day. The SCN is set by light. In the modern world, our light environment is broken. We sit in dark offices during the day, signaling night to the brain, and we stare at bright screens at night, signaling day to the brain. Your clock is confused. It doesn't know when to release cortisol, wake up, and when to release melatonin, sleep. So it releases them at the wrong times. You feel tired at 2 p.m. and wired at 11 p.m. We need to manually reset the clock. Protocol 1. Morning optical flow. Within 30 minutes of waking up, you must get natural sunlight into your eyes. Do not look directly at the sun, but look at the sky. Go outside. Windows block the specific spectrum of blue light you need to trigger the cortisol pulse. This morning light hits the SCN and starts a timer. It says the day has begun. Release cortisol now so we can be alert. And set the timer to release melatonin in 14 hours. You are booking your sleep appointment for tonight, first thing in the morning. 10 minutes on a sunny day, 20 on a cloudy day. This is non-negotiable. Protocol 2. The sunset signal. In the evening, you must do the opposite. As the sun goes down, the blue light in the atmosphere fades. Your brain detects this shift towards the red-orange spectrum and begins to produce melatonin. But if you sit under bright white LED pot lights and scroll on your phone, which emits high-energy blue light, you are screaming at your SCN, "It is noon, stay awake." Melatonin production is suppressed. After sunset, dim the lights. Switch to lamps that are low to the ground. Use warm amber-colored bulbs. Turn your phone to night shift mode, or better yet, put it away. You need to create a cave-like environment to permit the chemistry of sleep to initiate. The temperature trigger. Your body temperature tracks your circadian rhythm. To fall asleep, your core body temperature must drop by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a biological trigger. The drop in temperature signals the brain to transition into sleep. If your room is too hot, or if you are buried under heavy blankets in a heated house, you are physically preventing the sleep onset mechanism. The tactic: keep your bedroom cold, ideally between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. If you can't control the room temperature, take a hot shower or bath before bed. This sounds counterintuitive, but when you step out of the hot water, your blood vessels dilate, radiating heat away from your core. Your body temperature plummets rapidly, which knocks you out. Stimulus control. Breaking the battlefield. We talked about classical conditioning in the previous chapters. You have accidentally conditioned your brain to associate your bed with struggle. You lay in bed, worrying, checking the clock, tossing, turning, and checking your phone. Your brain has learned bed equals thinking, bed equals anxiety, bed equals awake. We have to break this association. The bed is for 2 things only: sleep and intimacy. It is not for working, it is not for watching Netflix, and it is not for worrying. The 20-minute rule. If you go to bed and haven't fallen asleep in 20 minutes, estimate, don't check the clock. You must get up. Do not lay there fighting. If you stay, you reinforce the link between bed and insomnia. Get out of bed. Go to another room. Keep the lights dim. Read a boring book. Listen to quiet music. Do not look at your phone. Wait until you feel the wave of sleepiness return, the heavy eyelids, the head drop. Then go back to bed. If you don't sleep in 20 minutes, get up again. You are retraining your brain. You are teaching it, we only are in this rectangle when we are unconscious. This is brutal for the first few nights. You might be up and down 5 times. You might get 2 hours of sleep. But usually, within a week, your brain gets the memo. When your head hits the pillow, the brain says, "Oh, this is the sleep place," and shuts down. The cortex distraction, cognitive shuffling. Why can't you sleep? Because your prefrontal cortex is guarding. It is chewing on problems. You tell yourself, don't think about the meeting. The brain says, okay, I'm thinking about the meeting. Now what? Trying to suppress a thought makes it stronger. Instead of trying to empty your mind, which is impossible, you need to jam the signal. You need to give the cortex a task that is engaging enough to stop the worry, but boring enough to induce sleep. The tactic? Cognitive shuffling. Pick a word like bedtime. Take the first letter, B. Visualize words that start with B. Bear, ball, bat, bread, boat. Visualize each one for a few seconds. See the boat bobbing on the water. See the steam rising from the bread. When you run out of B's, move to E. Elephant, egg, ear, eagle. This scrambles the brain's pattern recognition software. It forces the brain to generate random, non-threatening imagery. This mimics the fragmented, nonsensical thoughts that naturally occur just before you fall asleep. Hypnagogic imagery. You're tricking your brain into thinking the sleep process has already started. The 3 a.m. cortisol spike. Falling asleep is one battle. Staying asleep is another. Many of you fall asleep fine from exhaustion, but you wake up at 3 a.m. wide awake, heart pounding. This is usually metabolic. If you ate a high-carb, sugary dinner, pasta, alcohol, dessert, your blood sugar crashed while you were sleeping. Your brain sensed the crash as a starvation threat and released cortisol and adrenaline to liberate stored glucose. The adrenaline wakes you up. You are not awake because you are worried because you are chemically awake. The fix. Stop eating 3 hours before bed. Digestion requires energy and raises body temperature. If you must eat, have a small amount of protein or fat, like a spoonful of almond butter before bed to stabilize blood sugar through the night. No alcohol. Alcohol knocks you out, sedation, but it fragments your REM sleep and causes a massive rebound spike of glutamate, excitation, as it wears off in the early morning. The brain dump. Your brain is afraid that if it stops thinking about the problems, it will forget them. It is holding on to your to-do list like a life raft. You need to give your brain permission to let go. The tactic. The worry journal. 2 hours before bed, not in bed, take a notebook. Write down everything that is bothering you. Write down tomorrow's to-do list. Then, next to each item, write the next step. Problem: car is making a noise. Next step, call mechanic at 9 a.m. Once it is on paper, tell your brain, it is captured. We cannot do anything about it tonight. The plan is written down. You can stand down. You are offloading the working memory onto the paper. NSDR, the backup generator. What if you do everything right and you still can't sleep? The fear of not sleeping is often worse than the lack of sleep itself. You panic about the fatigue you will feel tomorrow. You need to know about NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. This includes protocols like yoga nidra or hypnotic body scans. Studies show that 20 minutes of NSDR can support the brain in a way similar to sleep. It allows for some replenishment of dopamine and reduction of cortisol even if you are fully conscious. If you wake up at 3 a.m. and can't sleep, say to yourself, that is okay. I will do NSDR. I will rest my body. Even if my mind is awake, my body will get the restoration it needs. This removes the performance anxiety. Paradoxically, once you stop trying to force sleep and just accept rest, sleep often comes. Supplements, the helpers, not the heroes. We discussed chemistry in Chapter 6, but for sleep, there are specific tools. Warning, I am a narrator, not a doctor. Consult your physician. Magnesium glycinate or threonate, most effective, relaxes the muscles and the nervous system. L-theanine, promotes relaxation without sedation. Apigenin, found in chamomile, it acts on chloride channels to calm neural activity. Glycine, lowers core body temperature. A note on melatonin. Be careful. Most supplements are overdosed, 5 mg or 10 mg. whereas the body produces only 0.3 milligram. Taking high doses can downregulate your own receptors and cause nightmares or grogginess. Use it only for jet lag, not as a daily crutch. The morning after. Resilience. Let's say the worst happens. You slept 0 hours. The alarm goes off. You are a wreck. How you handle the day determines if tonight will be better or worse. If you cancel your plans, stay in bed, drink 5 coffees, and nap at noon, you have just destroyed your sleep drive for the next night. You have guaranteed another night of insomnia. You must drag yourself up. Get the sunlight. Exercise, even lightly. Do not nap. Do not pound caffeine after noon. You have to build up enough sleep pressure, Addison, to ensure you crash tonight. You have to stay awake to fix your sleep. And mentally, you must be tough. Remind yourself, I have survived tired days before. I will feel like garbage, but I will function. I am not unsafe. I am just tired. The takeaway. Here is the summary for the architecture of sleep. Respect the wash cycle. Sleep is when your brain cleans itself. It is non-negotiable. Set the clock. Morning sunlight and evening darkness are the primary switches for your biology. Bed equals sleep. If you aren't sleeping, get out of bed. Break the association with struggle. Cool down. A cold room triggers sleep onset. Offload the data. Write down your worries before you enter the bedroom. You are now operating with a cleaner, faster, more resilient machine. The fog is lifting. We have covered the brain, chapters 1 through 4, the body, chapters 5 through 6, the behavior, chapter 7, and the restoration, chapter 8. Now we must turn our eyes to the future. We are not just trying to fix a problem. We are trying to build a mind that is stronger than it was before. We are moving from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. In the next chapter, Resilience as a Muscle, we will explore the concept of anti-fragility. We will learn how to use stress as a training stimulus to make you sharper, tougher, and more capable than the normal people who have never had to fight this battle. Chapter 9. Resilience as a Muscle. We have spent the last 8 chapters discussing repair. We have talked about fixing the malfunction, rewiring the circuits, and cleaning the filters. We have treated your anxiety as an injury that needs to heal. But healing is not the end goal. If you break your leg, the goal of the cast is to get the bone to knit back together. But once the cast comes off, you don't just sit on the couch and celebrate that your leg isn't broken. If you do that, the muscle will atrophy. The leg will be weak. The first time you try to run, it will snap again. No. Once the cast comes off, you go to the gym. You put weight on the leg. You stress it. You force it to handle loads that are heavier than before. You don't just want a healed leg. You want a strong leg. The same is true for your brain. Many people believe that the goal of mental health is peace. They imagine a life where nothing bothers them, where they are never stressed, never afraid, and never uncomfortable. They want a flat line. But in medicine, a flat line means you are dead. Life is not peaceful. Life is chaotic, loud, demanding, and unpredictable. If your goal is to avoid stress, you are fighting a war against reality, and you will lose. The goal is not to build a life that is safe enough for your fragile brain. The goal is to build a brain that is strong enough for your dangerous life. In this chapter, we are changing the paradigm. We are stopping the treatment and starting the training. We are going to explore the concept of anti-fragility. We are going to look at how you can use stress not as a poison, but as a nutrient. We are going to turn your anxiety into your superpower. Fragile, robust, and anti-fragile. The philosopher Nassim Nicholas Taleb introduced a concept that is essential for understanding the anxious mind. He categorized systems into 3 types. First, there is the fragile. A porcelain teacup is fragile. It loves peace. It wants to sit on the shelf and never be touched. If you drop it, it breaks. Stress destroys it. Second, there is the robust. A concrete block is robust. If you drop it, it doesn't break. It stays the same. It resists the stress, but it doesn't get better. It just survives. Third, there is the anti-fragile. This is a category for which we don't have a good word in the English language. These are things that benefit from chaos. These are things that need to be dropped, shaken, and stressed in order to grow. The wind extinguishes a candle, but it fuels a fire. The candle is fragile. The fire is anti-fragile. Your immune system is anti-fragile. If you live in a sterile bubble, your immune system forgets how to fight. It becomes weak. But if you are exposed to germs and dirt, it builds antibodies. It gets stronger because of the attack. Your muscles are anti-fragile. To build a bicep, you have to lift a weight that is heavy enough to literally tear the muscle fibers. You have to injure yourself. The body responds to the trauma by rebuilding the fiber thicker and stronger than it was before. For years, you have been treating your mind like a porcelain teacup. You have been protecting it. You have been avoiding triggers. You have been trying to keep the wind from blowing. But the human mind is not a teacup. It is a muscle. It is a fire. By protecting it, you have made it fragile. You have deprived it of the very stress it needs to become resilient. The biology of hormesis. This isn't just philosophy, it is biology. The scientific term for this is hormesis. Hormesis is the phenomenon where a low dose of something that is toxic in high doses actually becomes beneficial. Exercise is a perfect example. When you run, you are creating oxidative stress in your body. You are creating inflammation. If you ran for 24 hours straight, you would die. But if you run for 30 minutes, that acute burst of stress triggers your body to produce antioxidants and anti-inflammatory factors that last for days. You need the stress to trigger the upgrade. The anxious brain has lost its hormetic adaptation. You have become sensitized. You perceive any stress as toxic. When your heart rate goes up before a meeting, you interpret it as a heart attack, toxic, so you retreat. You miss the opportunity to realize that this stress is actually performance fuel, hormetic. We need to widen your hormetic zone. We need to teach your brain that a certain amount of discomfort is not damage. It is data. It is the feeling of the weakness leaving the body. The safety trap. We live in the safest time in human history, yet we are the most anxious generation. Why? Because of the paradox of safety. When you remove all external dangers, the brain's threat detection system doesn't turn off. It just recalibrates. It starts scanning for smaller and smaller threats. If there are no tigers, the brain worries about taxes. If there are no taxes, the brain worries about social standing. If social standing is secure, the brain worries about a slightly awkward text message. The sensitivity of the alarm adjusts to the environment. By trying to remove all triggers from your life, you have lowered the threshold for what counts as a catastrophe. You have created a peanut allergy of the mind. Because you haven't been exposed to the peanuts of rejection, failure, and uncertainty, your mind goes into anaphylactic shock when it encounters them. The only cure for an allergy is immunotherapy. Gradual, controlled exposure to the allergen until the body realizes it isn't poison. We have to reintroduce danger into your ecosystem. Not life-threatening danger, but ego-threatening danger, comfort-threatening danger. Voluntary adversity. To build resilience, you cannot wait for life to attack you. You must go on the offensive. You must choose suffering before it chooses you. This is voluntary adversity. When you choose to do something difficult, something that makes your amygdala scream, you retain the position of power. You are the driver. This rewires the brain differently than when stress is forced upon you. When stress is forced, for example, your boss yells at you, you feel helpless. Helplessness breeds anxiety. When stress is chosen, for example, you take a freezing cold shower, you feel empowered. Agency breeds resilience. You need a dojo for your mind. You need a daily practice of doing things that suck. 1. The cold plunge. We discussed this as a rescue tool for panic, but now use it as training. Every morning, turn the shower to freezing for the last 60 seconds. Your body will gasp. Your mind will beg you to step out. Stand there. Control your breath. You are teaching your brain, I can feel extreme physical discomfort and I do not have to panic. I am bigger than the sensation. 2. Physical exertion. Anxiety is high energy without a destination. Give it a destination. Lift heavy weights. Sprint until your lungs burn. You need to feel your heart racing at 160 beats per minute in a context that implies power, not fear. When you know what a racing heart feels like when you are sprinting, you won't be so terrified of it when you are sitting in a chair. You will recognize the sensation. Oh, this is just high arousal. I know this. 3. Social friction. Anxious people are often people pleasers. We try to smooth over every interaction. Practice creating small amounts of friction. Send a soup back if it's cold. Say no to a request without offering an excuse. Sit in silence during a conversation without trying to fill the gap. Watch the discomfort rise. Watch your brain say, they hate you. And then watch nothing happen. The world doesn't end. The muscle grows. The cognitive reframing. Threat versus challenge. There is a fascinating study from Harvard regarding anxiety reappraisal. They took people who were terrified of public speaking and divided them into 2 groups. Group A was told to tell themselves, I am calm. Group B was told to tell themselves, I am excited. Group B performed significantly better. Why? Because anxiety and excitement are physiologically identical. Both involve high heart rate, butterflies, sweat, and focus. The only difference is the cognitive label. Calm is the opposite of anxiety. To go from high arousal, panic, to low arousal, calm, is like trying to stop a train going 100 miles per hour instantly. The brakes will fail. Excitement is also high arousal. You are not trying to stop the train, you are just switching the tracks. When you feel the surge of adrenaline, do not try to calm down. Do not say, oh no, it's happening again. Say, my body is powering up. I am getting ready to perform. This is energy. I am excited. View the stressor not as a threat, something that will damage you, but as a challenge, something you can overcome. A threat shrinks you. A challenge expands you. The next time you have a panic attack, try this radical shift. This is a workout for my nervous system. Let's see how strong I can get. Self-efficacy, the belief in I can. The psychologist Albert Bandura coined the term self-efficacy. It is the belief in your own ability to execute the actions required to deal with prospective situations. It is not confidence that everything will go well. It is the confidence that if things go wrong, you can handle it. Anxiety is essentially a crisis of self-efficacy. You do not trust yourself. You believe you are incompetent in the face of your own emotions. You cannot build self-efficacy with affirmations. You cannot stand in the mirror and say, I am capable. Your brain knows you are lying. You build self-efficacy through mastery experiences. You have to look at the evidence. Look at your track record. You have survived 100% of your bad days. You have survived every panic attack you have ever had. You have navigated every crisis, every heartbreak, every failure. You are still here. You are a survival machine. You need to start keeping a victory log. Most anxious people keep a mental log of their failures. I stuttered in 2015. I panicked in 2019. Start logging the wins. I felt anxious in the store, but I stayed in line and bought the milk. I felt like canceling the date, but I went anyway. Stack these bricks. Look at them. This is the wall of evidence that protects you from the wind. The growth mindset. Of mental health, Dr. Carol Dweck famously distinguished between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Fixed mindset. I am an anxious person. This is just how I am wired. I have a chemical imbalance. I will always be this way. Growth mindset. I am currently experiencing anxiety because I have practiced it for years. I can practice courage. I can rewire my brain. My current state is a starting point, not a life sentence. You must aggressively adopt the growth mindset. Stop using the language of permanence. Stop saying, my anxiety. It is not yours. You didn't buy it. It's not a pet. Say, the anxiety, or this current sensation. Treat your brain like a puppy you are training. When the puppy pees on the rug, has a panic attack, you don't say, this is a bad dog. It will never learn. I should just give up. You say, no, not here. We go outside. And you guide it back to the protocol. Resilience is not a trait you are born with. It is a skill you learn. It is a muscle you build. And right now, because you have been carrying this heavy load of anxiety for so long, you are actually getting stronger than the people who have never had to carry it. The gift of the wound. I want to offer you a perspective that might seem impossible right now. Your anxiety can be a gift. I know. It feels like a curse. It feels like it has stolen years of your life. But let's look closer. Because of your anxiety, you are highly observant. You notice details others miss. Because of your anxiety, you are empathetic. You know what suffering looks like, so you are kinder to others who are struggling. Because of your anxiety, you are introspective. You have been forced to examine your mind, your habits, and your life. People who are naturally calm often sleepwalk through life. They never have to look under the hood. They never have to upgrade their software. They stay the same. You have been forced into the fire. You have been broken down. But the Japanese have an art form called kintsugi. When a valuable ceramic bowl breaks, they do not throw it away. They put it back together using gold lacquer. The cracks are not hidden, they are highlighted in gold. The bowl is considered more beautiful and more valuable because it has been broken. It has a history. You are a kintsugi bowl. The work you are doing in this audiobook, the breathing, the exposure, the reframing, the discipline, is the gold lacquer. When you come out the other side of this, you will not just be normal again. You will be better than normal. You will be anti-fragile. You will have a toolkit for managing stress that most CEOs and high performers would kill for. You will know how to regulate your nervous system. You will know how to sleep. You will know how to face fear. The worst thing that ever happened to you can become the best thing that ever happened to you if you use it as a training stimulus. The Stockdale Paradox. Admiral James Stockdale was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7 years. He was tortured repeatedly. He had no idea if he would ever see his family again. When he was asked who didn't make it out of the camp, he said, "The optimists." The optimists were the ones who said, "We will be out by Christmas." Christmas would come and go. Then they would say, "We will be out by Easter." Easter would come and go. Eventually, they died of a broken heart. Stockdale survived because he held two contradictory beliefs simultaneously. Absolute faith. I will prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties. Brutal realism. I must confront the brutal facts of my current reality, whatever they might be. This is the mindset of the resilient. Do not be a blind optimist. Do not tell yourself, my anxiety will be gone tomorrow. That sets you up for failure. Be a brutal realist. This is hard. My brain is firing panic signals. I feel terrible right now. But hold the absolute faith. I can handle this. I am rewiring. I will get through this, and I will be free. Endure the present while keeping your eyes on the horizon. Training for life. So, here is your new assignment. Stop trying to calm down. Start trying to level up. When you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, how can I make myself a little bit stronger today? Maybe it's holding a plank for 60 seconds when your muscles are shaking. Maybe it's initiating a difficult conversation with your partner. Maybe it's driving one exit further on the highway than you did yesterday. Every time you feel the resistance, smile. That resistance is the weight. You are in the gym. The rep only counts when it hurts. If it's easy, you aren't growing. You have spent years fearing the sensation of adrenaline. I want you to start respecting it. It is the energy of transformation. The fire is hot, Yes, it burns. But you are the sword. The fire is not there to destroy you. It is there to forge you. Do not ask for a lighter load. Ask for broader shoulders. We are nearing the end of our journey. We have dismantled the machine, cleaned the parts, fueled the engine, and now we have begun the training. In the final chapter, the new baseline, we are going to integrate everything. We are going to talk about maintenance. We are going to discuss how to live your life so that you never slide back into the pit. We are going to define what it means to be fully, vibrantly, dangerously alive. Chapter 10, The New Baseline. We have reached the end of the manual. You have traveled a long way. You started this journey in the fog. You started with a brain that felt like an enemy, a body that felt like a ticking time bomb, and a future that looked like a narrowing tunnel. You have stripped the machine down to its bolts. You have seen the amygdala for what it is, a frightened animal. You have seen the cortex for what it is, a conspiracy theorist. You have learned the mechanics of the hijack, the chemistry of the blood, the architecture of sleep, and the power of exposure. Now you are standing at the threshold of a new life. But before you step through that door, we need to have one final honest conversation. We need to define what this new life actually looks like. There is a fantasy that many people hold on to. They believe that if they do all the work, if they take the cold showers and eat the magnesium and do the exposure therapy, they will reach a state of nirvana. They believe they will never feel anxious again. They believe they will become statues of stoic perfection, untouched by the chaos of the world. Let me shatter that illusion right now. You are not going to become a robot. You are a human being. You will still feel fear when a car swerves into your lane. You will still feel grief when you lose a loved one. You will still feel a flutter in your stomach before a first date or a big presentation. The goal was never to eliminate feelings. The goal was to stop being ruled by them. The difference between the old you and the new you is not that the new you feels nothing. It is that the new you does not break. In this final chapter, we are going to define your new baseline. We are going to talk about maintenance, about how to handle the inevitable bad days, and how to use your newfound energy to build a life that is so big, so bold, and so meaningful that anxiety becomes nothing more than a footnote in your biography. The ghost in the machine. You need to understand the concept of the phantom limb. When a person loses an arm, they often still feel an itch on their fingers. The arm is gone, but the neural map in the brain is still there. The brain is used to receiving signals from that limb, so it hallucinates them. You are going to experience phantom anxiety. You might be having a great week. You are calm, you are sleeping well, you are crushing your goals. And then, out of nowhere, on a Tuesday afternoon, you will feel a flash of panic. The old familiar dread will wash over you. The old you would have spiraled. You would have thought, oh no, it's back. I failed. The tools stopped working. I am broken forever. The new you knows better. The new you recognizes this as a neural echo. It is just a ghost in the machine. It is an old, dusty circuit firing off a random spark. You will not engage with it. You will not fear it. You will simply acknowledge it. Ah, there is the phantom, and you will keep moving. Healing is not a destination where you arrive and park the car. Healing is a practice. It is a garden. You have cleared the weeds, yes, but if you stop tending the garden, the weeds will grow back. This is why the tools we have discussed, the breathing, the exposure, the sleep hygiene, are not medicines you take until you are better. They are hygiene that you maintain for life. You don't stop brushing your teeth just because you don't have a cavity today. You brush them so you don't get one tomorrow. The slingshot effect, handling relapse. I am going to make a prediction. Sometime in the next 6 months, you are going to have a bad day. A really bad day. Maybe you will go through a breakup. Maybe you will lose a job. Maybe you will just get the flu and your defenses will be down. You will have a panic attack. You will lay in bed and ruminate. You will feel like you are back at square one. This is the most dangerous moment in your recovery. In addiction recovery, they call this the abstinence violation effect. It's the idea that if you have one drink, you might as well drink the whole bottle because you have ruined your streak. If you have a panic attack after 3 months of calm, your brain will lie to you. It will say, "See, nothing changed. You are exactly where you started." This is a lie. Progress is not a straight line. Progress is a spiral. You might feel like you are passing the same landmark again, but you are passing it at a higher elevation. You are different now. You have tools you didn't have before. You have knowledge you didn't have before. When you have that bad day, do not judge yourself. Do not pile shame on top of the anxiety. That is the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain, the anxiety. That is inevitable. The second arrow is the judgment, shaming yourself for the anxiety. That is optional. Pull the arrow out. Say to yourself, "I am having a hard day. My nervous system is sensitized. That is okay. I know what to do. I will drink water. I will sleep. I will float. This will pass." Resilience is not about never falling. It is about how fast you get back up. The old you stayed down for months. The new you stays down for an hour. The vacuum of the mind. We must address a profound truth about human psychology. Anxiety is often displaced energy. Your brain is a high-voltage generator. It produces massive amounts of mental and emotional energy. If that energy does not have a constructive outlet, it turns inward. It becomes destructive. As the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said, anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. If you do not have a purpose, if you do not have a mission that demands your focus, your brain will manufacture problems to solve. It needs to chew on something. If you don't give it a bone, it will chew on its own leg. Many people find that their anxiety evaporates when they are in a crisis. Why? Because suddenly they have a singular focus. I must solve this crisis. All their energy is channeled into action. The most powerful anti-anxiety drug in the world is purpose. Now that you are not spending 90% of your RAM processing fear, you have a surplus of energy. You have a vacuum. You must fill that vacuum with something meaningful, or the anxiety will rush back in to fill the void. You need a project. You need a goal. You need a responsibility. It doesn't have to be saving the world. It could be raising your children well. It could be mastering the guitar. It could be building a business or planting a garden. But it must be something that matters to you. It must be something that forces you to look outward. When you are obsessed with a mission, you don't have time to be obsessed with yourself. Self-absorption is the petri dish of anxiety. Purpose is the sunlight that kills it. The social architecture. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. We are social primates. We have mirror neurons in our brains that subconsciously mimic the emotional states of the people around us. If you are surrounded by neurotic, negative, alarmist people, your brain will synchronize with theirs. You will absorb their cortisol via osmosis. You have to audit your circle. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Do they talk about ideas, or do they talk about disasters? Do they encourage your growth, or do they bond over shared misery? You need to build a tribe of the stoic. Find people who are emotionally regulated. Find people who are working on themselves. Find people who laugh. And more importantly, be that person for others. There is a concept in maritime history. The captain must never run on deck. If the ship is in a storm and the crew sees the captain running, they panic. If the captain walks slowly, calmly, and gives clear orders, the crew functions. You are the captain of your household. You are the captain of your team. When you regulate your own nervous system, you act as a tuning fork for everyone around you. Your calm becomes contagious. Your steady breathing slows down the breathing of your partner, your children, your colleagues. This is the ultimate responsibility. Your healing is not just for you, it is for everyone who has to interact with you. By healing your own brain, you are breaking the generational trauma that was passed down to you. You are ensuring that the buck stops here. The deathbed perspective. I want to take you to the end of your life. Imagine you are 90 years old. You are lying in a bed. The room is quiet. You are taking your final breaths. You look back on the movie of your life. You see all the days you spent worrying. You see the years you spent trapped in your house because you were afraid of a panic attack. You see the opportunities you turned down because you were scared of failure. You see the relationships you sabotaged because you were insecure. You realize with heartbreaking clarity that none of the things you worried about actually happened. And even the ones that did happen, you handled them. You survived them. You realize that anxiety was a thief. It didn't protect you from death. It robbed you of life. It stole the taste of your food, the warmth of the sun, and the presence of your moments. Seneca said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Do not wait until you are 90 to have this realization. Have it now. You are going to die. That is the only certainty. No amount of worrying will change that. No amount of kale or cardio or checking the locks will change that. Since the ending is written, the only thing you control is the plot in the middle. Do you want to write a tragedy about a person who was afraid of their own shadow? Or do you want to write an adventure about a person who felt the fear and did it anyway? Use your mortality as a weapon against your anxiety. When your brain says, "What if I embarrass myself at this party?" you say, "I am going to be dead in 50 years and nobody will remember. I'm going to the party." When your brain says, "What if I fail at this business?" you say, "Then I fail. At least I will have a story to tell." Nihilism says nothing matters, so why bother? Optimistic nihilism says nothing matters, so why not? Why not take the risk? Why not speak your mind? Why not be bold? The stakes are infinitely lower than you think. The new identity. Finally, we need to change your name tag. For a long time, you have worn a tag that says, "Hello, I am anxious." You have built your identity around your struggle. You have bonded with people over your diagnoses. You have used your anxiety as an excuse for why you can't do things. It is time to rip that tag off. You are not an anxious person. You are a person who sometimes experiences the biological sensation of anxiety. Just like you are a person who sometimes experiences hunger or cold or fatigue. You do not say, "I am hunger." You say, "I am hungry." It is a temporary state, not a permanent trait. Stop introducing yourself with your limitations. Stop defending your walls. Start acting like the person you want to be, even if you don't feel like it yet. Walk with your head up. Speak with a steady voice. Look people in the eye. Wear the clothes of a confident person. Adopt the posture of a warrior. Your biology follows your psychology, but your psychology also follows your physiology. If you act the part, eventually the mask becomes the face. The final integration. Let's bring it all together. The new baseline looks like this. You respect the machine. You know your brain needs sleep, nutrition, and movement. You don't poison it and expect it to perform. You accept the noise. You know that intrusive thoughts are just static. You don't argue with them. You turn the radio down and get back to work. You lean into fear. When you feel the adrenaline, you view it as fuel. You move toward the discomfort, knowing that exposure is the only way to stay free. You trust yourself. You have a log of victories. You know that you are anti-fragile. You know that you can handle whatever the world throws at you. You live with purpose. You are too busy building your life to waste time worrying about it. The departure. This is where I leave you. I cannot walk the path for you. I can only hand you the map. You have the map now. You have the tools. You understand the science. There are no more secrets. There is no magic pill coming to save you. You are the rescue party. The door is open. The sun is shining outside. Yes, there are storms out there. Yes, there are tigers. Yes, there is uncertainty. But you are not the same person who started this book. You are not a victim of your biology. You are the master of it. Take a deep breath. Fill your lungs. Feel the oxygen enter your blood. Feel your heart beating, strong, steady, alive. That heartbeat is not a time bomb. It is a drum. It is calling you to march. So, open your eyes, stand up, and go live. If this audiobook has served you, if it has given you a weapon in your fight against the darkness, I ask one last thing of you. Help us find the others. There are millions of people suffering in silence, trapped in the loop, thinking they are broken. Help us reach them. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the premier audiobooks. Let's build a community of the anti-fragile. Thank you for listening. Now, get to work.